We are now. Test, test. You guys good? Check, check.
Okay, we'd like to call the Traffic Commission to order. Would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. We have one item for new business, that being the request for temporary handicap parking on the south side of the Corn Palace. There should be a map in your packets on that.
I actually have had some people ask about this, you know, coming to the basketball games now and getting busy. Palace is going to get real busy, I guess, over the winter months. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And, do you see any issue as far as doing it one way? That probably logically the way that goes through the
Yeah, it makes the best flow. We came out of the alleyway there onto 6th Avenue, put those parking spaces there, and then made it a one-way exit to the east.
Okay. How many are we going to pick up? Do you have
I believe we have 6 sitting there.
6?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. That being the only item of business, would entertain a motion to adjourn Traffic Commission.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Very good.
Thank you.
Good bad, huh? Good luck calling it. with the barriers in place.
Yeah, there you go.
You have to get something in there to scoop that snow out.
I think we'll keep you instead of the chief.
Yeah.
I think we'll keep you instead of the chief. It went pretty quick.
A lot less discussion.
No controversy. Must be Lyndon. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's great. I love it. I appreciate it.
I Well, I'm in charge.
It was interesting in the 60s, we were part of a committee that set the standards for it.
Well, that's how I was.
But they removed all the security, so the government could read our mail. It was just irritating.
Stephanie, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, we should get together on that lease thing and go through.
Yeah, no, that'd
And
be
then
good.
let's pick out anything that we think might be
Really?
something of contention.
Yep, yep,
And we'll put in there, remodify it somehow.
yep. I was just gonna look up I am in until noon, and then I've got a meeting all afternoon, so.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Try to reduce.
Dusty, has anyone seen the mayor out there? Yeah, I texted him, but I didn't hear. I haven't heard. I can go out and try and call quick. I haven't heard from Ken. Have you?
Will you be in your office tomorrow? Pardon me? Will you be in your office tomorrow?
Okay.
Until noon.
Okay. Mitchell,
Yeah. That's good. We gotta get these out of here.
Dimensions on
Here, Marty.
pools, on the big pools, where depth and size. Oh, as far as the proposed? Well, the proposed was 25 yards by 25 meters. How deep? That's still gonna be, that has not been designed yet. But, I mean, I think roughly, there was one area.
New format? Who did that? You? Looks good. Looks good.
There's
Yeah, very good.
Put it on my computer and got my iPad went like this. I just didn't know it's like,
She's trying to save a little paper.
I know, but that's what's great about an iPad, if you go like this, it makes it bigger.
Who has to graduate down to at least six or seven? 6 or 7. Yeah.
Some of those design details, you know, we're not there. Thank you. Exactly.
Carl, if Jeff
Marty's?
is in the meeting here in the beginning, does he still get
Oh, no.
one vote? He does, right? Because he's
I believe he does.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
So it'd be
I believe he does. Most boards.
No checks or anything?
maybe
Christmas bonus or something.
Leading the meeting for a little bit.
Well, it can't be a tie.
Danny said he checked
Those are
too.
raised.
So you didn't get one either?
I got it. Checking? We took theirs out. Don't worry, we have a good Christmas.
Board, like commission,
Yeah,
the chairman votes.
right. I know. But
And
there was
all.
but here the mayor's tiebreaker, but he's coming in. Yeah.
Even if he's out of town.
You don't have neighbors. You just don't have the tiebreaker.
What?
You just don't have the tiebreaker vote if he's not here, right? He's still. I mean,
Ken's not his way back.
That's right, that's right. We just don't have a
So I think we'll get started. He can
In which case,
get caught up, but
the matter should
I
be
don't see a
referred
gavel.
until the next.
Yeah, 1 minute, Mr. President.
If it's a tie, it'll be voted.
He's trying, never does that.
Yeah, you know, when we first here,
Good. Didn't go today. Day off. Go home and then I went. Sent for yes. Yeah, I took like, got my office, called me a few things, and we ran around today and Patty find my mother called it. I'll leave it to hear about it Tuesday.
oh.
Yeah. My mom was there, my wife took me to the store, how much you want it? You want that? You don't mind my buying right now, do you? He goes, no, I have no comment. I just get it. I put it in the cart. Like, I guess money goes.
I'm moving somewhere else. Not like they get hurt about it.
She asked me a question about the agenda earlier today. So.
I wonder if he knows about the 6 o'clock.
No.
I'll text her.
On his way.
I don't know. She remembers the 6 o'clock meeting?
I think she did.
I think you can read them.
Thank you.
Mel's got it.
Oh,
started. Do we have someone here from Wesleyan Church for invocation? Okay. We'll go on to roll call. Just want to mention that Ken is expected to be here tonight, but he had to be in Sioux Falls today and is on his way back, so hopefully not traveling too fast. So we'll get started, and if he needs to, we can bring him up to speed on what we've covered so far. So Cindy, you want to take the roll, please?
Olson.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Dosher.
Here.
Barrington.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Sharps. Smith.
Here. Okay, we've got a quorum. Obviously appreciate everybody coming in early and such a beautiful day. And we'll go ahead and start. The first item is the discussion and action on the indoor pool location. And good to see we've got good participation again. Really not a lot of ground rules, but we have been at this now for what, 3, 4, maybe 5 months. I think it's been good because people have been able to voice their opinions. They've been able to kind of look at the locations and give their input. But I'm wondering with a number of people that we have, if it would make some sense that maybe we would first start with the audience, maybe get their input, try to limit to a certain degree the time that you spend at the podium, 5-7 minutes or so, if that would be appropriate, and then maybe after that we can turn it over to the council, get some of the opinions of the council, and then I guess if anybody has any follow-up, and I would hope then we would get to a point where we are going to make a vote tonight so we can take another step forward with the pool. So how's that sound? All right.
Here comes Susan now.
Okay. Perfect timing.
I got stuck in my driveway. And my husband's tractor rice water across his back. So
Oh boy.
the neighbor.
Like this.
I tried to text you and get a ride.
Oh, really?
I thought, well, maybe if she has a lot of pick me up to you and get my text.
I think we're just going to get started. We're going to go right into the pool. We're gonna start with the audience, and so whoever feels free, they want to come up and voice their opinion like Dr. Graves is. And what I'd like to do is introduce yourself because there is a lot of people that listen to this on the internet.
Very good. My name is Joe Graves. I'm superintendent of schools at Mitchell. And the question was put in the past about the land on the GBR block and the Park and Rec block. And the school board has not taken a position on that. But we've had a long tradition of working with the city and the city working with the school district that when there's a piece of property is something that's needed for the other's purpose, we've always basically granted that. What we would try to do is, if you wanted to do it at that point, we would try to minimize the amount of land that was taken for that purpose, because of course that's playground. Now there's a piece south of the existing Park and Rec Center that we really don't use very much, if at all. We had a frisbee catching dog thing at the last Corn Palace thing, as you may remember, but that was actually a city function, not ours. So anyway, so we really don't use that piece of property. Again, we'd want to minimize that. And having said that, then it seems likely the school district would be willing, more than happy to deed that land over to the city as one tax-supported institution to another. However, I do want to make the point is this is not a suggestion that we think one of your locations is better than the other. That's not the school district's role, and it's certainly not my role. I just wanted to let you know, because a question had come up about that piece of property, and that's been the traditional stance of the district and the city.
Dr. Graves, I just have a quick question about LB. A number of people have been banding about whether the school district owns LB and whether they don't. What do we Do we own the school? Do we lease the school? What's that relationship?
We do not own L.B. Williams. That property is owned by Dakota Wesleyan University. When that project was undertaken, there was an intentional decision made to lease that building on a permanent basis. Because if it had been a lease purchase, it would have been treated as in a different fashion under the then state finance formula. Now, that old state finance formula no longer exists, so it's no longer relevant. But it was intentionally done as a permanent sort of lease, and it was held out for 20 years, and then it was extended another 5. So we do not own the building, and we also do not own the land under the building. But we now have a contract as of a few years back with Dakota Wesleyan University that gives us permanent usage of the building and the property until such time as the district no longer wants to use it, at which time we have certain obligations to either turn the building over or to return the land to essentially its original state.
Does the school pay? What does the school pay? I think that's probably of interest as much as anything.
Of course, and that's all public document. We pay just under $400,000 a year, but that money is not a payment to Dakota Wesleyan University as some sort of a profit mechanism. That basically pays for the actual cost of the debt for the amount of the building that the school district uses. There's another piece of the building that DWU uses for its education department. That's not included in that $400,000. In 2018, when we will have been in the building, I believe 25 years, and the debts will be paid off, we then have a much smaller amount we pay per year, present valued at just under $30,000 as of 2018, that we will pay for the use of the land then as for as many years as we use it.
And then does the school is responsible for the upkeep and maintenance on the building itself during that, after 2018?
That's correct, and we're responsible for the upkeep and maintenance now. But yes, it will continue to be so, yes.
Anything else for Dr. Graves? I was going to ask, as far as, have you taken a look at the proposal of the pool at all and the size to make for sure you're comfortable with the amount of land?
No, that the drawing back there is the first I've seen of it, and I don't think it's drawn to scale. I'd have to probably sit down with somebody and look at that.
Okay. But the point is, you don't use that space hardly at all.
Right. The southwest corner of that, and again, we'd want to minimize the amount of land we use, but it's currently not really used for playground anyway. And in fact, if you ask most people, they believe the city owns it. So then when we had to replace the sidewalk, I was reminded, no, the school owns that. So, joking. One last comment, as long as I have the podium. You guys do a great job. Your city street department does a great job with snow removal. I have been just delighted with the job you do. You know, we got to get all our buses through and all our students through. And your department really deserves a pat on the back for what they do. So, thank you.
Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Dan Ware, and I'm retired, so I go up to the rec center like 5 days a week, and I use a pool every day. If we're going to build a new pool, indoor pool, let's build it on either the ground, city building, city ownership. But I don't know if we really need to build a new pool. Because today when I was up there was 3 of us in the pool when I got there. There was 2 people came later when 2 other people left. And when I was leaving, there was 2 more people. So at any given time, there was only 3 people in the pool. So if we're going to build it, it would be nice, then we could utilize the whole thing, because the diving end, unless you want to float around, is almost useless. But if we build a new pool and it's all the same depth, then two groups of people can be using it at the same time. So I guess my theory is, let's build it up at the rec center. I see too many problems with 4 groups of people trying to use the pool at the same time. Maybe a clash of cultures between the Dakota Wesleyan kids and, say, our parents or grandparents. I'm sure there'll be some offensive language used, and it may disturb, shall we say, older ladies, that they may decide not to continue their membership. Also, I have a question for the council. Being as I have a membership to the rec center, does that allow me, if we build the pool someplace else, does that allow me to use that same membership in that pool? Say if we build it at Dakota Wesleyan or out on the bypass or wherever. Can anybody answer me that, or am I going to have to buy a separate membership to swim in that pool?
I don't think it's got that far.
That's right.
Well, how can you determine if it's going to be cost efficient to build a new pool if you don't know if you're going to have additional revenue coming in? I mean, you know, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you're going to build something, you got to know it's going to make you money or at least break you even. So, my personal opinion is, let's build it up the rec center. We're not going to have to hire additional people. We don't have to question of who owns it. I just found out now tonight when Dr. Graves talked, I always thought the school district owned L.B. Williams. I thought they went to court and got a settlement that they would own it when it was paid for, but apparently not. So I think there needs to be a lot more information put out on the pool. You know, if you're going to build it at the rec center, you know, do it there. City owned. I've talked to a lot of people when I'm up to the rec center, and most of them agreed that, yeah, that's the place to build it. They don't have to go from the rec center, clear across town, change into another outfit to go swimming, and then go home. Where they can do it all in one area without spending a lot of time. So, personally, I'd like to see you guys build it at the rec center. Take that chunk of ground. I seen the other day in the paper where the county is offering the city the use of a small parking lot south of their annex. It was just a little quip in the county proceedings. Maybe you guys can partner with them with the idea, one of you guys do the dirt work and the gravel, and another one do the actual blacktopping or something. You know, kind of do what would you call it? Help each other out. They'll end up with a parking lot, and the city will too, so. But anyway, that's my opinion. Let's build it at the rec center. It makes more sense. I guess too, as for people driving down the interstate, it was mentioned, oh, they'll pull off the interstate and go to this rec center. My kids played soccer from grade school through high school. And I tell you, if we rented a motel room in a town where they were playing soccer, I guarantee you it was going to have a pool and a water slide in it, or we weren't going to stay there. So that part of the marketing, to me, doesn't make any sense. I mean, people driving down the interstate are not going to pull off and swim for 2 or 3 hours if they're headed for the Black Hills or Yellowstone. So, but I hope you guys make a decision fairly quick, because I guarantee you, if you don't start the bid process till March or April or May, the contractors that are bidding on it are going to be a lot higher. I used to work construction for 14 years, and I guarantee you the boss always bid the project higher in May and June, simply because he had no competition. So if you're gonna bid it and build it, you guys should be having bids ready and getting bids by February at the latest. So let's see what happens and we'll go from there, okay?
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
You wanna hear from me?
Sure.
Some of this information.
You want the screen, Dusty?
Yeah. We all know who you are. Oh, Dusty Rodick, Park and Rec Director.
Good job. You had a good replacement. I don't think.
Hey Stephanie, can you turn on the screen?
Oh. Might have to help me. Is one better, table computer? Or podium?
No.
Where I usually get 14-year-old kid help.
I haven't had to do that one.
Usually you're on top of that stuff. Basically, like I said, I can just kind of, you know, we've got a lot of great members. We'll wait till that comes up. We can address some of those things if you have any questions. But you know, really, you know, I sent out an email, somewhat hitting some of these points. And you know, as a department, it's our responsibility to help create this quality of life that, you know, makes this town, you know, so great to live. And one of the ways we've been able to do that is with the support of the community, the council, and having facilities available that anybody can use at any time. And when we started, you know, the whole process, trying to figure out what projects we're going to do, we did bring to you, you know, an option of doing an addition remodel at the rec center, and that plan did include a pool at that point. You know, I've heard some discussion as far as, you know, the size standpoint, the rec center, is it big enough? You know, can we do the things that we want to do? You know, really, with one of the things, you know, we looked at that remodel was the addition of a pool. If, you know, as long as Mitchell population is under, let's say, 22,000, our existing rec center will suffice size-wise. We get beyond that in population base, then we're going to start, you know, to outgrow. Then we're going to have, you know, too many kids for bedrooms that we have. But up until we reach about that point, and, you know, that's nothing scientific. That's just more or less, you know, that's what my gut tells me. If the pool came up to the rec center, we would have sufficient space up there to serve this community, at least until we got to, you know, that population level. With that original vision was some additional gym space, but, you know, if we can work cooperatively with Dakota Wesleyan, you know, I know that's not part of this project, but if we can work cooperatively with Dakota Wesleyan and utilize some of that gym space when they're not using it, you know, that would be certainly something that we could look at and not have to have a gym, you know, an additional gym up there. Over the past several years, the Park and Rec Board, you know, we're looking for ways to create a family center up at the rec center. A lot of it's been focused on fitness, and for good reason. And we'll get into that a little bit. You know, the healthcare industry is going towards fitness and wellness, and we still need to serve that population, and we'll continue to do so. And we'll still, you know, if the pool were to come up here, we would still have the space for that. The Dakota Wesleyan plan, I think it had like 3,800 square feet of fitness space and then some classroom area. So, you know, in that 4,000 square foot range for that sort of thing. Currently at the rec center, we have, I believe, 5,400 square feet of fitness space. If the pool were to come up there, you know, and I can show you a slide here in a little while. Could you pull that one up instead, Terry? We can always come back to this. You know, if the pool were to come up to the rec center, the center large blue area there is the existing pool area. You know, that would be filled in. That would become fitness space. What is now the multi-purpose room, which is kind of lower left-hand corner, that light blue, that large space there is our multi-purpose room. That would be the area where we would potentially look for an indoor playground, craft, you know, community education room, things like that, an active play area.
Is that the small gym?
Yeah, that is basically the former gymnastics area. So, and currently we're using that for fitness space. So right now we have, you know, about 1,400 square foot of additional fitness space than what's proposed at the Westland site. So, and if you flip flop, you know, we put our fitness stuff up where the existing pool is, then we're looking at even slightly larger space than that. So, but really the park board is looking to create a multi-generational family center, and with some of the reprogramming of space up there, we believe we can create that. You know, the play area for the kids, you know, the fitness area for the adults. You know, there's a study area included in there, a parents' lounge, you know, some sports simulators, perhaps a climbing wall, just a facility that will serve, you know, across the generations. That's kind of what our vision has been for that facility, and we can reprogram a lot of that space. I've got a budget for that. Many of those items can be done, you know, on a step-by-step deal. It doesn't all have to be done at once. You know, one year we could pick to do the indoor playground. You know, after, you know, let's say, for example, the pool went up there. First thing we'd have to do is, you know, get that operational and fill in the old one. And then you'd start progressing from there.
Dusty, let me stop you
Sure.
for a minute. When we first started this discussion, there were a large number of people who came up and said, you know, we're not really excited about a new pool, or we are excited about a new pool as long as the old pool doesn't close. So is it your suggestion, your vision, that if it does go at the rec center, that we close the current pool?
That would make the most sense, you know, and actually you wouldn't do that until the new pool was operational. Otherwise you essentially have 3 spaces of water. I think the argument behind that was that we at least wanted to retain what I consider our existing pool more of a leisure pool, you know, for your aquatic exercise and, you know, some more leisure, you know, not your competitive type pool. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the intention, is, you know, we at least need to have that piece with a leisure pool built into the new plan. I believe that would satisfy the use and be able to close the existing pool. So I'll get into that point. I know one.
I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble getting my bearings with this. Can you tell me where Main Street is?
It is, yep, right up over there.
Okay, that's why I was
Here's
thinking.
where
the employee parking lot is.
Yep.
Okay, that's where you would add on. So would that just bump? it
That
out
that's
to the
that's a
street, basically,
proposed add-on.
If you did it.
Right.
The
Yeah.
light blue just below that is what?
That is the current weight room.
Okay.
So the main entrance is currently.
Yep.
Is right there. You would just
Right down in
move
there.
where
And in
you're.
between that is the locker room area, existing locker room area, in between the light blue and darker blue.
Yep.
We got,
Below the yellow.
this
That's
is
locker room area.
men's locker room current now, and then this is,
This allows the women's locker.
TV room in between.
there's TV room.
Like I say, and the only reason I included that was just to kind of, you know, let you guys be aware of the vision that the park board is looking at. I know one of the reasons for considering the Dakota Wesleyan site has been the community partnership angle, and I don't believe having the pool at the rec center diminishes our current partnerships with both Dakota Wesleyan and Avera. We currently partner with Dakota Wesleyan in a number of different areas. Through an internship program, Thomas runs interns through the rec center on a regular basis, through the sports exercise programs and everything else. Hopefully that's mutually beneficial for us and them. Obviously their sports teams are using a lot of facilities. We're working with we've worked with the women's basketball team as far as, a lot of training and things like that. So, and another potential cooperative effort would be, if the pool is up at the rec center, could we do something with, some of the members, if they'd be interested in using the walking track at Dakota Wesleyan. Dakota Wesleyan is interested in using the pool at the rec center, some sort of, reciprocal or add-on, for either membership. So, there's ways that we can cooperate. Our cooperation with Avera, they've been instrumental in helping us develop a ground-based fitness program, and we actually just met last week talking about partnering in bringing additional wellness programming into the community. So, I believe those partnerships are still strong and would remain that way. So, Dakota Wesleyan would be a great addition to the campus and Mitchell. That facility down there is going to be a benefit. I talked a little bit before about, the additional gym space for youth events. The walking track, I'll be the first to admit, that's going to get a lot of use. Our seniors will use that. That's not anything that we can include in this facility, but that is, certainly a need in the community. So hopefully there's ways that, we can work through that together. And that first slide, really was more about the numbers. Operationally, maintaining and programming, and staffing 2 separate sites is going to be more expensive and, fairly inefficient. I can't read that without my glasses, so hopefully you guys can. And really, I think you guys have all seen this, but essentially right now, currently it's costing us about $55,000 to operate our existing pool. A new pool operation with one pool site only. If it was at the rec center, you're looking at approximately $78,000. If you're at Dakota Wesleyan, $117,000. If you look through those numbers, the only real difference is the staffing at the Dakota Wesleyan site. To have that pool operational for a reasonable number of hours during the week, and that's just figuring the staff time at $8.50 an hour, so minimum.
So Dusty, I just have a quick question. Just looking at the Mitchell numbers, not the Wesleyan number, but the rec center number is, $25,000 higher. Is that because the pool is bigger? Or?
Yes.
So it's more heat, more chemicals?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. More space to maintain, that sort of thing. Because we're basically going from a 30 by 60 pool to a 25 yard by 25 meter plus another, a leisure pool that is going to be approximately the same size as our existing one. So your chemical, your heat, your everything, in that space is adding to that number. I know as far as, like I said, I've got down there a notation, as far as the parking. I know that's been, I know 196 spaces was mentioned at the Dakota Wesleyan site. We actually have 144 spaces between the rec center and the school. We share that parking during the day, weekends, evenings, what have you. That is available for us to use. I did visit with the county, talked to Mr. Claggett, and that area just immediately to the north of our existing parking lot could potentially be used for special events. So on a very limited basis, I'm not even necessarily sure you'd need to put asphalt in that parking lot or anything. You could potentially, just for overflow parking, maybe used 3 times a year. I'm not sure it would be cost effective to even asphalt it. You could gravel it, and that would be a porous surface. It's not going to create a drainage issue or anything like that. So, there are options as far as
Dusty,
that goes.
people have asked me, people have seen this number and they're frankly skeptical. Does this count street parking, or is this just 144 parking spaces in a parking lot?
That's the parking area along the west side of the building and the parking area that is to the north of the building, the main parking area.
So it doesn't count any
That
of the
does
spots that people might have on 12th Street?
Nope.
Okay.
No, and that does not include the proposed county lot there. That would be another approximately 66 spaces. So, that would. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll sit down. Thanks.
Any questions? Well, yeah. I was just going to say, if there's any questions for Dusty while we had him up here, but he snuck away on us.
We'll get it back in a little bit.
The one thing I wanted to note up there with the numbers, it was, and like I said, we've been studying this thing for a long time. So the 55,000 that we have in our current pool, and the efficient, how can you double the size of the pool, and obviously the new equipment is more efficient. So we're going from 54 to 78. We currently have in our budget right now, we've had since the middle school is closed down, we've supplemented the MAC program by $11,000. And then we've also talked to the MAC about basically the rental of the pool and the facility itself. So again, regardless of where it goes, we've pretty much got in place that we will have the utilities taken care of in the budget as a result of it. We do something similar for hockey. We've got other relationships in town with parent-run organizations, and it's working very well. So what the final numbers are going to exactly be, it's not going to be for sure, but at least we've got a plan in place that it will not cost the city any more than what it is right now as far as utilities and maintenance are concerned. And I know, Dusty, you got these numbers from the architect that's working with existing pools, and so they should be fairly solid.
I was going to say, most of those cost estimates I visited with a number of communities, around the state and in Iowa. Sioux Center, Iowa, they have a facility there that's very similar to what we're, looking at building. Watertown, I believe Yankton, Madison. So, I basically made some phone calls and said, hey, what's it costing you in utilities and, chemical and what have you for similar size pools? So.
Dusty, if you can just.
Yep.
On the 3rd of December, you gave me a note. So based on the comparison cost, the addition of the new pool is going to be approximately $25,000. And at the rec center, expenses at the rec center would add $65,000 at DW. Can you explain why $65,000 more in cost at DW versus the rec center at $25,000?
So that's basically a difference of $40,000 between the two sites. And
okay.
Basically that, if you look on this sheet.
That's just the staff?
Yeah, that's purely staff.
Because why I didn't bring it, but the numbers that we had put together for the $8 million proposal, how much of that was parking? Terry, I can't remember exactly. Was it around 200? Oh, you brought it?
Parking was $212,000 for 85 stalls.
Okay. So Dusty, if I understand what you're saying is we should have sufficient parking to the north, and if we needed to, we could overflow into the county's parking lot. So you're maybe suggesting now that there wouldn't have to be any additional parking as a result?
I believe we could do that. I mean, you may need to, put some gravel or, some things in that county space. But, that would be minimal.
I apologize for being late. My wife had surgery on her neck today, and she didn't get out of the recovery room until about 4 o'clock, and so I just said, hi, how are you doing? And said, I got to hit the road. And the roads aren't very good coming. It was about 30, 35 miles an hour until I got to Salem, and then it actually improved the closer I got to Mitchell. But hopefully I can get brought up to speed here where you've at. Jeff said that you've had an opportunity for some public input, and I don't know if there are any other questions, but I guess unless there's someone else from the audience that wishes to come forward,
I'm Ed Potzler. I won't repeat what I said 2 weeks ago, but I would like to see renovation at our current rec center. It's not going to be a duplicate of what the college is putting in, but it's well used by the population. And if a pool gets moved across town, I think that our current facilities, with other facilities in town, will degrade with time, and I would hate to see that. The current rec center is centrally located, it's well used, and the pool, if the current one is filled in, at least that reduces the workload from 3 pools to 2 pools, and we would not lose any facilities at that point. We would still have the whirlpool close by, which a lot of people use, and as well as the machines and the cardiovascular room. So my wife can't be here, she's working, but both of us would like to see the new pool, if built, being built at the recreation center. Thank you for your time.
Okay, one last time. I just want to express on behalf of both Avera and Dakota Wesleyan our desire to potentially see the pool located on the south side of the community. And we believe there's benefit and synergy in a relationship between the city of Avera and Dakota Wesleyan. I recognize that there's been a concern about owning and leasing the land, and certainly Dakota Wesleyan and the Board of Trustees would be open if the council so sought to explore potentially owning that particular part of the property. We would just need the council to move forward with a proposal to Dakota Wesleyan in order to explore that. I also just think what's encouraging about all that's happened in this is that whether you support the recreational facility as it currently exists, or if you support the one at Dakota Wesleyan, Dusty used the term, it will be a facility that serves across the generations. And I can think of no better thing for Mitchell than to recognize the value of having young people and old people and people with young families and grandparents all together working toward common goals of health and wellness. And what's exciting about, I think, the potential of that is very powerful for our community, and I think it moves us forward. That said, I would be remiss not to think that having a new state-of-the-art facility that's going to be in the neighborhood of $11.5 million and leveraging that with the community by placing another facility next to that certainly could serve the community's economic development interest in promoting activities to come into the area. It promotes the relationship between Avera and the community, and it promotes the relationship between Dakota Wesleyan University and the community. And I would be excited to entertain much more extensive discussion. I think we can work through, with legal contracts and legal expertise, any obstacles that may be perceived as being in our way. I grew up in a family that was always problem solvers, and there's many ways of looking at our world today. We can live in a leadership model that inspires fear, that inspires uncertainty, and that inspires doubt. Or we can live under a leadership model that harkens progress and collaboration and partnership. And what I've been impressed about the City of Mitchell and all that you have done is that you've at least entertained the idea of progress and partnership. And I think that the entities in Mitchell are now prepared to step forward to say, we believe we have something greater when we all work together, and we'd like to be part of that with you. Regardless of what that looks like, we think the best version of that is a pool at Dakota Wesleyan. But I also know that going forward, if that's not the decision you choose to make, that Dakota Wesleyan will continue to look for ways and avenues to partner with the city, the hospital, and the larger community, because together we can make Mitchell vibrant and vital. But creating doubt and uncertainty and casting fear will never get us there. Thank you.
Amy, while you're up there and while we're talking about cooperation, I just want to commend Dan Miller and the Dakota Wesleyan Drama Department for the excellent Scrooge production that was done in cooperation with the city and ACT. I mean, it really was a very professional and moving performance. So,
great. I will pass that along. Thank you.
My name's Dan DeLores. I'm on here unsolicited by either party, but I just wanted to share that one of the things that I observe in Mitchell and my roles in Mitchell is how fortunate we are to have a university and a technical school. I come from Huron, South Dakota, and currently the university that I graduated from is a swimming pool. And so they took a step backwards and they lost that university. And so when we have the opportunity to enhance an existing facility that is going to help recruit young people, possibly to stay and live in Mitchell, is very important. I think that, excuse me, when we look at the number of individuals that have graduated from Dakota Wesleyan and have stayed on to live in Mitchell is so valuable. So I know we're looking for the taxpayers and what's best for Mitchell, but I also think in the long term, the students that graduate from Dakota Wesleyan will end up staying here and contributing to our community. Excuse me, I've been fighting a cold, so probably standing in front of you guys when I'm not used to it, and then fighting a cold on top of it is making my voice go back to the adolescent stage. So with that, that's just the one enhancement, and I'm sure you've all heard it and you've all seen it, but just coming from here and seeing where my university is at now, I just hope that we can take the steps forward to help the Mitchell Technical Schools when we can, and Dakota Wesleyan when we can. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Kevin DeVries. I'm the Recreation Superintendent. I don't have a whole lot to add to what Dusty had to say. The only thing I guess I would want to add to it, and it's, I guess, to toot our own horn, I guess, if we have to here. I'm happy to see Dakota Wesleyan in their new facility. I think they've needed that for a long time, and I think it is going to do great things for their college. I just feel, obviously I'm biased, our current rec center that the city's owned and operated for 20 years it's served our community well for 20 years, I think, and I've been there since it opened. Very proud of the facility. I believe it needs some updating too, as Ed mentioned. It needs some updating. We've got over 2,000 members that are currently at our facility, and you know, it is a family-based facility that really truly does serve everyone in our community, and I just feel that the city needs to invest in its own facility, I guess. And that doesn't take anything away from Dakota Wesleyan, because I love Dakota Wesleyan. We partner with them on a lot of different things. But, you know, obviously I'm going to look out for our own facility, and I think the city should invest in its own facility as well, to keep people here in Mitchell too. So, do you guys have any questions for me at all? I've talked to a few of you a few times, but I appreciate this process. You know, it's good to hear from both sides, from people, but.
Kevin, what have you heard from the members?
Obviously, our members are going to be biased towards the rec center. You know, the majority of them love coming to our facility. I think we offer a really good customer service to them. Are we perfect? No, I don't think any facility is perfect. Like I said, we need some upgrades inside our facility. There's no doubt about that. I mean, the inside is 20 years old, and with the amount of traffic that we get every day and over 20 years, you know, it's showing a little bit of wear. And so, yeah, we do need some things that can accommodate the members that we do have already, especially our younger age kids. But we've done a lot with what we have there already in creating our new multi-purpose room that used to be the gymnastics room. And, you know, I think when people walk into our facility, and Thomas says that all the time, you know, it kind of sells itself, you know. And but yeah, we need some upgrades. But our members, they're happy with our facility, and it's a great place to work.
Going back to parking again a little bit, Kevin, you and I kind of talked about this a little bit, and maybe you want to share with, you kind of control, you know, the activities that are going on at the weekends. Is it very often that there's both a school and a rec center event going on at the same time?
Not very often, but we have had where we've had our big basketball tournament at the same time as the Lions Pancake Feed. And you know how big the Lions Pancake Feed is at GB Rogers. And so we've had, you know, our basketball tournament with our both gyms going on, along with that, and our regular member usage, and it's been fine. I mean, nobody's come in and complained that, hey, I couldn't find a parking spot. They might have to walk a little bit to get there, you know, but they found a parking spot.
What to go there for.
Exactly. But yeah, you know, the 144 spots that we have, like Dusty was talking, includes our west parking lot, the 85 spots that are directly in our path, along with the school's parking as well, which after school gets out and on weekends is open. So that's where the 144 spots come in.
Do you see any type of issue or concern if we put it up there as far as when they're hosting the large swim events for the campers or the overflow square footage that's going to be required? Do you see any type of an issue there?
I don't think so. I mean, when we have our basketball tournaments, people know that our gyms are being used. And so they know, and we post that well in advance, and we can send emails out with our registration system now and stuff like that. And so we can let the people know, hey, there's a swim meet coming up this weekend. The gyms are going to be closed. The facility itself is still going to be open. The weight room, the multi-purpose room, and things like that will still be open to the public. But the pool and the gyms will be closed, because yeah, we have 2 gyms there that we can use for the camping or whatever you want to call that, for staging. Yep. So no, I don't really see that as an issue. I mean, it happens already when we have our tournaments and different events. Anybody else? Thank you.
I'll be brief. My name is Diane Delores. I want to thank you all for your time. I know you've all invested a lot of time and energy into thoughts. My main concern is, just because of my background, I deal with just numbers. So I want to make sure that we're not pigeonholing you, if you were to build it at the rec center, that it's taking land away from possible expansion and growth for the elementary school or for your rec center. I just don't want you to cut yourself short. As he said, I haven't met you, but with pleasure, Dusty, you know, that they can handle up to 22,000. At the rate that we're going, we have a wonderful community. People are constantly talking about coming to our community, moving in. I just want that to be considered, that we're not shorting ourselves on any options for expansions. So, thank you.
I'm gonna do it. I'm sorry. I'm Sue Bennett. I'm very proud of the information that Dusty and Kevin have given you. I am at the rec every day, and investing in what we have is, I see it every day, from 4-year-olds to 86 at the rec. And when the other gentleman was up here saying that there's 2 or 3 people in the pool, I'm here to tell you that I'm here with 17 women, 3 days a week, and others 5 days a week. So I'm there every day with a bunch of people. And so the pool that we have now is well utilized. Dusty and Kevin run a remarkable program up there, and you can't get any better than what we've got. So if you're going to invest in something, the DWU kids are great, and they're fun to have around, and we see them as interns and interact with the Mitchell Tech kids that come up, and they all have student memberships, and I don't think any of them feel unwelcome at the rec that we have now. And so investing in what we already have seems like the way to go. And $8 million is a lot of money. And if you can remodel the rec that you have on land that that Dr. Graves is willing to give, I see that as a perfect cooperation amongst everybody. I don't think that DWU or Avera or anybody else that's currently involved in the rec has a problem with continuing to be involved with the rec. So if you're going to build, I would appreciate it if you would take a good, strong look at the marvelous place that you have now and invest in what we already have and just move forward with something even better. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to address the council? If not, council members, any thoughts that you wish to convey or questions to be asked? I guess I have stated in the past that I didn't want to rush the decision, and tonight I think hopefully we've had an opportunity to gain information that is helpful towards making that decision, and it would be my desire, I'm not forcing anyone to do anything, but I think that we've had an opportunity over the last several weeks to not only discuss this amongst ourselves, get feedback from the public, and seek information. And I think that it's time that we make a decision and move forward. We still have, I believe, a lot of work to be done yet on the financing package that we need to put together. And I think that all of this location part of it kind of ties in with that. So if we have the opportunity tonight to move forward, that would be my wish. Again, if you're not ready and there's other questions that need to be answered, I can certainly live with that. But if we do have the necessary information to make an educated decision, then I would ask that you do make a decision tonight on location. And maybe just to reiterate a little bit regarding the current rec center and issues that arose over the last few years. I don't think it was any secret that there was a strong desire to upgrade our current facility or to build a separate new facility. And to that end, we got some very preliminary estimates of cost to do either. And the first estimate that we received, which would have included an indoor pool, was about $12 million to renovate the current and existing facility. To build a standalone new facility was in the neighborhood of $20 million. Given that information, I think that when the council was making their decisions on capital projects, the indoor pool was not really on the radar, mainly because of the cost that it was going to take to tackle that type of a project. And when Dakota Wesleyan rather aggressively made a decision to move forward with their wellness center, and they very graciously invited the city of Mitchell and the Park and Rec Department to explore the possibility of using their facility for cardio. The idea of having a 200-meter track was something that was very attractive for those of us who want to use that type of a facility during the winter months when you can't get outside and walk, that you would have a track. So we started exploring the idea of using the Dakota Wesleyan Wellness Center as part of the expansion of our wellness plan for the city and the rec center. And the reason being is that we didn't feel at the time that we had the resources to expand our existing rec center, and that problem, if you will, still exists. Even if we should go forward with building the indoor pool at the rec center location, which I'm not advocating we do or we don't. I'm just telling you that if we should decide to do that, that it is going to still require an investment that we didn't really have that money available a year ago, and I don't believe that we have that money available today to make any significant improvements on the existing rec center. Now, does it all have to be done right away? I don't think so. Those things can be delayed, and I think that everyone would probably agree that if the indoor pool is built at the rec center, that the existing pool probably would be filled in and that space would be converted to other uses, all of which is going to cost money to do that. And again, we don't necessarily need to do it today, tomorrow, or the day after. Those things we can plan for and invest. But I just wanted to make it clear that part of the reason why we were looking at utilizing the offer that Dakota Wesleyan made to this community was somewhat of a partnership that we could develop in using their facility for our community members and enhance wellness. And I don't think that that has changed. I think that regardless of where the pool is located, that I believe it's the desire and wish of Dakota Wesleyan to still make that offer to our community. And I think that that is a very gracious offer on the part of Dakota Wesleyan for them to allow our community to use that facility. And as I said, with that 200-meter track, it makes it very attractive. And possibly until such time as the other renovation work is done at our rec center, that is a very attractive offer to be able to have that facility and the cardio equipment that they will have. And the city of Mitchell is not investing a dime in all of that facility. So again, regardless of where the pool is located, I would hope that we will continue to work together with Dakota Wesleyan University, with Avera Queen of Peace. We started down that road a year or two ago regarding some of the programming that we were working with Avera. We will continue to do that. I think that this is also a good opportunity to work with Dakota Wesleyan. And I think that the three of us working together, we have an opportunity to provide better facilities for our whole community. And we certainly have, I think, a strong desire to improve wellness for all of our community. And this, I believe, can be done regardless of where the pool is located. So, again, I just wanted to, I guess, maybe interject some of the thoughts that we were having a year or more ago before the idea of building an indoor pool even came up. So thank you.
I'm going to move that the City of Mitchell request the Mitchell School Board to transfer land sufficient to build a new pool adjacent to the current rec center, and request the permission of the school board for the city to move forward with the planning and financing of the pool during the transitional time that the land remains under the ownership of the Mitchell School Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I don't know if I can remember all of what you had there, Mel, but basically, well, I think, well, if you want to repeat.
I have it written down for Cindy, but I think it's important that we request the school board. It is their land, and I know what Dr. Graves has said, and maybe it's just me, but if somebody would come to me and say, we're planning on building something on city land, give it to us, my back would be up. There will be a period of time, if they grant us the land, where it'll still be in their ownership, and I think it's important to have their blessing to move forward with the planning and financing of the pool. Wesleyan has made, as you say, Mr. Mayor, a very generous offer. I do think there are synergies at the rec center that do not exist at Wesleyan. I think the other machines and the whirlpool and those kinds of things would not be available. I think to suggest that people are going to do one thing at one place and move to the other. I think that if we build at Wesleyan, the public pressure will be there to keep the pool open at the rec. I don't think there'll be any savings. So anyway, the motion again, just for anybody listening, the City of Mitchell, I move that the City of Mitchell request the Mitchell School Board to transfer land sufficient to build a new pool adjacent to the current rec center, and request the permission of the school board to move forward with planning and financing the school during the transitional time the land remains under the ownership of the Mitchell School Board.
If I may, Ken,
yes,
before we start the discussion with the council, I believe I see, is Tevin still here? Oh, okay, shoot. Okay. Well, I kind of wanted to bring Tevin up here just to kind of recap her weekend. Blake, do you want to come up and kind of give us a recap? Because what I want to do is I just want to show that the decisions were made tonight is for the children, and obviously Tevin's quite an exception. But regardless of what location the pool is going to go, with Ryan and Mark and everybody sitting in the audience, I don't think we can lose on this. But it's our personal feelings, obviously, and opinions, and we've gotten from the various people in town. But why don't you tell us, Blake, exactly how? And I know I don't want to embarrass you, but I think it's something that's extremely important that we can have kids that go through the program and to excel like they do in a little bubble pool.
Sure. Blake Waddell. Just a nutshell, Tevin qualified in 5 events at the Winter Junior Nationals out in Seattle over this last 5 days here. So the meet ran Thursday through Saturday, and then they had that was all in a short course yards pool, which is what we're looking at here. And then Sunday they had time trials for any athletes in that meet in a long course, which is what the Olympics and the Olympic trials and things like that are ran in. Tevin had, and her coach will tell you, a very frustrating first race. She got disqualified for improper stroke. But I think that fueled her a little bit. But anyway, she competed in 4 other events. One event she came in seated 150th and actually finished 41st in the country. The other 3 races that she had, she finished in the top 20 in the country out of 1,100 swimmers that were at this meet from all over the nation. It was 18 and under, so it was a junior national. Sunday, and I get a little bit emotional still. It was pretty emotional for me, and it was hard for Mom to be home and not see it on the computer, but so I had texts going back and forth. But anyway, Sunday, Tevin was able to swim time trials in a long course meter in the 100 back and the 200 backstroke, and she qualified for the Olympic trials. She met the time standard in the 100 backstroke by over a second. Able to meet that, and in the 200 backstroke, she missed it by about 0.5 seconds, so about, maybe an inch, in that. So she was very close there, and I think she'll still get that. One thing to note, just kind of what Jeff's referring to, is Tevin was going to come up here and say she wanted just to thank the council. She gets a little bit nervous speaking in front of groups and kind of not being able to study what she's going to say. So I wanted to pass that along to you guys. But, one of the things to note is just, our kids swim in the pool that they do, and we have several athletes. It's not just Tevin. There's several athletes that are making huge strides in what they're achieving, and they're doing it in a non-traditional setting, compared to what all these other kids are doing. I guess I'll say it that way. But, from there, so our kids are excelling, and our kids are competing, and they're not just competing with local swim meets. I mean, they are getting to the national stage, and they're achieving those things. And I think it's a lot to say, but with the work that these kids put in, regardless of where they have water to swim in, they just want water. And I think that's the simplest piece for our kids, is that within the swim program, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for water that can give them that ability to maybe go to the next level, to maybe earn college scholarships. And on that Olympic trial note, Kyle might correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think Tevin is the youngest swimmer that I'm aware of from South Dakota to ever qualify for the Olympic trials, and one of a handful that I know of from South Dakota swimming that have, throughout the state, that have ever qualified for the Olympic trials. So, thank you.
Congratulations.
I just have
Yes.
something I'd like
Sure.
to say. Before we vote, I just want to make sure that my position is noted. I'm going to be voting against the resolution, or the motion, I guess. I recognize that there may be costs associated with building at Dakota Wesleyan, but I think if we look at the economic impact that Dakota Wesleyan has on our community, there would be a much greater weight on that economic impact than the economic impact that we may incur through having a swimming pool there. And the benefit that comes from having that relationship and having the resources that are available over there, I think outweigh as well. I was discouraged to hear disparaging remarks alluded to by previous comments about the students of Dakota Wesleyan, because personally I've had many opportunities over the last 25 and a half years that we've lived here to interact with students from the college, and I can say without any reservation that I have never had anything but a very positive, wonderful impression that came to me from the students that attend there. I find them to be extraordinary people. I think they bring a vibrancy to our community, and I think that they are truly an asset and people that we do want to keep in our community long after they have completed their education at Dakota Wesleyan. So I've given this a great deal of thought. In fact, I think Danny would tell you that I've changed directions, because I think initially I was thinking, well, it looks like we're going to have to go out to the rec center, but after a great deal of thought about this and what really I believe, and this is what I truly believe in my heart is the best for our community, it is that we would build at Dakota Wesleyan, and I would sure encourage you guys to join me in that vote.
Okay, I'd like to make a comment too. First of all, personally, I think Wesleyan would be a good place to put. However, when I took this seat, I said I was going to represent the people from my ward that would talk to me. Overwhelmingly, they say, add it to the rec center. So that's why my second for proceeding with this venture in this way.
I think we also need to listen, we talked during the budget process about the strength of our department heads and the good people we have working here, and I've heard the Park and Rec Board, I've heard the Dusty, Kevin all say that the rec center is where it should be. I think we've the other thing is staff. We talked also about staff. Well, the new one would take more people. And we had a long discussion about how many people we want to add in the city's payroll. So, and then along with Randy, overwhelmingly, I think I've had maybe 2 people go away, at least out of Ward 2. They're predominantly for the rec center, so I'll be voting for the rec center.
Well, I don't usually give my opinion before I vote, but I'm not real sure why the council kind of does that. But typically what you vote kind of shows your opinion. But I actually wrote down everything I want to say, and maybe like Dan, I'm fighting a cold and my voice might break, but this is what I wrote. First, I want to thank everyone for their input. No matter what happens, I believe we can agree a competition pool would enhance the city of Mitchell no matter where it's built. It's been a very interesting evolution of information. For me, this goes back to 1990 and Vision 2000 timeframe. We were talking about a new senior center at that time, and there was a proposal to put a senior center at the new proposed GBR school site. We would combine the kitchen, meal services, senior mentoring for kids, have access to pool and exercise equipment. The pushback from the senior center at that time was, why would we want to be around children? This is a city project and not a school project. We don't want to eat kids' food, and we need more card tables, not a pool or exercise equipment. In my view, we were a little short-sighted. I don't want to be short-sighted again. I understand people in groups will stick up for what they have now and what they know. In fact, if they don't, I wonder if they truly believe in their causes. I've been part of the Smart 21 group, the International Community Forum, and have been reading what they have to say about communities. You might not agree with everything ICF does and what they promote, but you cannot deny that they have insights into successful communities throughout the world, not just the United States. Some excerpts from their research. It is human nature to operate in silos because we know our own business best and prefer that others keep their noses out of it. But intelligent communities recognize that the path to prosperity leads in a more challenging direction through intensive, sometimes contentious collaboration amongst government, business, and institutions that represent education, culture, and citizens' interests. A view of Mitchell from the outside, from the Intelligent Community Forum, goes like this. A little more than 1,700 kilometers due west of Stratford, Ontario, lies Mitchell, a city of 15,000 on the plains of South Dakota, where it is the center of a region that has lost 30% of its population over the last 70 years. But Mitchell has carved out a sharply different destiny. With a willing private communications company and a federal broadband stimulus grant, Mitchell has developed a fiber-to-the-premise network serving every business and residence. Its university and technical school have leveraged the city's agricultural heritage into academic leadership, precision agriculture, in which farmers use satellite and remote sensing data to develop a highly detailed portrait of their land and apply that knowledge to boost yields. As part of the strategic plan called Focus 2020, both engage closely with city government, business, primary and secondary schools, and a major hospital to promote digital literacy and supply the highly trained workforce in increasing demand of area businesses. These include growing software companies, data centers, customer service centers, communications consulting firms attracted by Mitchell's network or fostered by its construction. Alone in the region, Mitchell has held on to its population and even achieved a modest growth. The sheer intensity of the investment, coupled with the effective plan to leverage its economic assets, has built a new and growing economy. A city of 15,000 with its own fiber-to-home network is improbable. So from an outsider, the city of Mitchell looks quite different than probably from inside South Dakota. This does not mean, however, that rural cannot be overcome. They also say some rural areas buck the trend. Many rural areas are not in crisis. Those located within a driving distance of an urban center attract commuters and weekenders. Those with scenery, cultural, or recreational attractions balance local enterprise with income from tourism. Some hold on to local manufacturing base or exploit geography to become transport or logistics hubs. But these opportunities are distributed neither evenly nor with regard to the welfare of the people who occupy rural land. Potential becomes reality only when cities develop faith in a different future and their own capacity to seize it. It almost sounds like they're describing Mitchell, but that section of what they're talking about comes from a completely different part of the book, or actually two different books. And finally, they write, as Thomas Friedman wrote in the 2012 New York Times, the best way to keep from being left behind is to develop a new ecosystem. And left behind, they're talking about left behind in economic development and vitality as a city. The best places, he wrote, will be cities and towns that combine a university, an educated populace, a dynamic business community, and the fastest broadband connections on earth. These will be the job factories of the future. What he didn't say was how much fearlessness this will require. So I've heard people say they don't want to drive all the way across town. Not sure if this is a pro-DWU or a pro-rec center view, but it only takes 10 minutes to drive from one end to the other. I've heard people say that the current rec center is too small and outdated. I've heard people say they don't want to be around college students. If I go back to 1990, some of these same age people said they didn't want to be around children. Maybe they just don't want to be around anyone. I've heard people say they don't like Dakota Wesleyan for whatever reason. I've heard people say the rec center location will bring people into downtown business. Interesting, the day after I heard this, I was at the rec center, which I'm there almost every day, and a group of kids were playing basketball and were eating Culver's fast food. Obviously, Culver's wasn't too far across town to go to the rec center. I've heard people say that no one builds on land they don't own, yet many buildings on the island of Manhattan, as an example, are built on leased land because the land is worth more than the building. And closer to home, I've been told that cabins at Lake Hansen can only be built on leased land. And obviously there are people with houses on leased land. There's been talk for years that the city, hospital, and Dakota Wesleyan would get together and build a wellness center. To me, this goes back to 2001 when I was on the school board, and the school, the city, and Dakota Wesleyan took a trip to Madison to look at the facility they have built and what they have. It's very impressive collaboration. A college campus, a city pool, college kids as lifeguards and teaching swimming class, senior water aerobics classes, and a rec center, and they all coexist. I get the feeling that some people only want to collaborate as long as they get to control what is done. And that is not collaboration, that is silo building. The city has a chance to collaborate with Dakota Wesleyan and Avera and have a pool and a 2015 $11 million recreation center on a site that is visible to tens of thousands of cars that pass Mitchell every year and will enhance the status of Mitchell as a rural regional center for years. I think that is the right thing to do, and I will be voting against this proposal.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Olson,
Aye.
Rice,
No.
Tronis,
Aye.
Dosher,
Aye.
Barrington,
Aye.
Allen,
Aye.
Sparks,
No.
Smith.
Aye.
6 yes, 2 no.
The motion is carried. Well, I believe that will end the discussion for tonight regarding the indoor pool. You started this discussion about an hour and a half ago. Do you want to take a short break until about 7:30 or thereabouts, and then we'll reconvene in regular session, or the same session?
Robert ready to do number 5.
Are we really?
I get rid of voice now.
Okay, we shall reconvene the council meeting. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. Does anyone from the council have anything that they wish to remove from the consent agenda?
I do have a question. It's on the Rex Winkle concrete. I look at that and I see that the contract amount was for about $61,000. We paid a total of $233,000 for that item. I understand that, you know, we pick up other stuff, but 4 times what we planned on doing is just kind of.
Jerry, can you address that?
This was due to the extra work that we added in the spring, fixing the water main on Sanborn, which amounted to about $140,000, which we did right away in the spring. City crews did the water main replacement. Street crews got it ready to go, and then Rex Winkle came in and did it. A lot of times on concrete, asphalt, sidewalks, stuff like that, when we put together our bids basically in the winter to try to get our best pricing, we usually come up with items that are a little bit lower of what we think that will probably get done, just to make sure we're going to be able to get everything done. Because if we try to create a list of all the items, we are going to miss some. Because once we go out in the spring and we start marking curb and gutter needs to be replaced, and areas that we have to, do a street overlay on, we're not going to be able to know all the areas until we're out there at the time getting those streets ready. So we're always going to end up with more. If we bid the full items that we think we're going to do in that year, and what if something comes up and weather changes or things like that, when we tell the contractor, you know what, something came up, we're not going to let you do all the projects that we set for you to bid. Well, when a contractor bids a job, they have to do a bid bond. A bid bond is, say, 5% of their project, and they also have to do a performance bond, which is a percentage of their project. I like to make it a little bit low. That way, we know the contractor's at least going to get all that work done and probably a little bit more. So that's the reason. Being that I was over the contract amount, didn't mean this amount comes out of a couple different budget items.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, this amount. So this amount came out of street maintenance, came out of assessments, comes out of repair and replace curb and gutter, and came out of water projects. So this 257, which was the amount we paid Rex Winkle, came out of probably 4, if not more, but more items that were budgeted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is budgeted someplace.
Yep, it's all budgeted. It's not, that contract amount doesn't come out of one item. That contract amount came out of 4 different items that we did.
Terry, as long as you're up there, you can satisfy my curiosity. Let's say we have, like we did with the sewer break, we have some sort of major thing and we can't do it. What's the bid law requirement? Because it's an emergency, we can just go out and do it, or do we have to?
It'd be, 50,000 is any time that if a project's over 50,000, then we have to do a bid. Now there is a bid law for an emergency bid item, which you could run a little quicker, but I don't know what those emergency things are. Usually what we have always done is it's always been under that 50,000. It was 25,000, and then they upped it to 50.
Emergency would have to be declared by the city council, and that usually would relate to water, sewer, things of that nature. It have to be declared as an emergency by the city council. And you're allowed to obtain quotations, and upon declaration of a legitimate emergency, and proceed on that basis rather than bidding.
So if it got to that point, there are steps we would follow.
Bid line item quantities, line items, and then your add-ons were by line items. And there's change order limitations too. I can't tell you what those are right offhand.
They're a percentage of what the project is.
Yeah. I'm sure you probably are more familiar with that than me, other than I recognize them every time I look at them, but I don't work with them every day. So.
Does that answer the question on that item? Okay.
Thank you.
The one item I would like to pull is under pay estimates, number H. I would like to pull the Vanderpool dragline pay estimate. And the reasoning of is item number 23, which is the final acceptance. Vanderpool's pay estimate is their final payment, so I would like to pull that until item number 23 is talked about.
Anything else?
I would move approval with the removal of Vanderpool Dragline Incorporated from the pay estimates as Terry requested.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to have anything removed from the consent agenda? If not, we'll have a roll call vote as amended.
Cindy forgot who's on the council.
Okay. Alan?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Dosher?
Aye.
Ronis?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Rice?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Charles?
Motion carried. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor and members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time.
I was waiting first to see if anybody else got caught or stood up to speak. I just had a couple things that I wanted.
Identify yourself, please.
What? Oh, I should. I'm sorry. I'm Stephanie Alwine, City Administrator for the City of Mitchell. I apologize. Just a few things I wanted to update the council on. First of all, in your packet, I sent out a copy of a proposal for our seasonal part-time wages. The mayor had asked department heads previously to put together a pay plan that would be consistent amongst all of our departments. We will be asking for this to be implemented. I said originally in my staff report in 2016, and apparently I was off a year. Next year is 2015, so they'll be asking for that to be implemented in 2015. Additionally, we had a couple questions from some of the counselors about what the wage impact would be when the minimum wage goes into effect January 1st. And so in your staff report, you should have received a copy of what that increase is per department. But I can tell you the overall cost increase for the entire city would be estimated at $61,237.78. That's largely due to the number of part-time seasonal employees that we had budgeted at the minimum wage now going up, and also with the implementation of that kind of standardized plan. But the largest impact for that comes from your sports complex was a big one, recreation aquatics, recreation center, some of those are obviously ones where we hire a lot of seasonal part-time workers, and they were at that minimum wage range. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions on that information that was given out to you, but I just wanted to be up here in case there was any questions that I could answer. Additionally, I just wanted to give you a heads up that at the first meeting in January, I'm going to be bringing 2 resolutions for you to consider approval on. The first one is a resolution that we will hopefully be doing jointly with Davidson County, asking for some grant funds through the South Dakota Department of Transportation to assist with the improvements that will hopefully be done to Spruce Street. And the second resolution will be a resolution to apply for grant funding for a railroad crossing safety improvements. I've been working with District 3 on each of those grant applications. There's 2 different there's a DOT grant and then a governor's office grant that we can apply for the actual road improvements, and then the railroad safety is a totally separate grant program. The thought was, we've been working on this for, I don't know, a couple months. the thought was any assistance, obviously, that we could get to try to help improve that roadway over there and get that project done sooner. The reason why it will be a joint application by both the city and the county is really two reasons. You know, we kind of have some joint ownership of that road with, you know, one side being county and the other side being the city. They also thought that it might actually be a better request coming from both governmental entities, showing that we're working together on that. And then we don't have to go through the process of taking over the road so one of the entities could apply. We can move forward with both of us doing that project jointly. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that so that you're not surprised when you see that on your next council agenda. My other, oh, go ahead, Mel.
Well, I don't know if it would be the mayor or you or whoever, but I'd be interested to have investigated, does it make sense for one of, not right now, but for one or the other of us to take over that road? Or are we going to continue to, you know, plow the right side and they're going to plow the left side? You know what I'm saying?
Yep, there's already a joint operational agreement that Public Works has with the county on that, and I do think that those discussions are going to continue. The thing that we're faced with right now is we have a January 15th deadline, so that's why we're doing it jointly. See how the grant funding comes out, and then they can work out the details of where the best use and ownership of that road is into the future after the construction's done. So that's definitely on the table and being discussed. But for the purposes of the grant application, we're going to do it jointly to leverage a little bit more pull, hopefully, with the state, and then also so that we don't have to have all those other details worked out in advance of the grant application.
Right, I understand that. I'm not suggesting that for the grant, but someday we're going to have to redo that road, and there's going to be an argument over, you know, what kind of improvements you make and who pays for the gravel and that kind of thing. So anyway.
Yep, those discussions are happening right now, so.
And I know that this has been stated, but can you just remind me how long of a project that is? Is that 8 months, did we decide, or did you think it was going to be longer than that? The spruce project?
This is actually would be going towards Mitchell
Oh,
Tech.
okay, got it.
This would be adding additional work onto the Spruce Street.
Oh, that's why the county, I was like.
Yep. And they also think that we probably have a little bit of leverage at this time frame right now too, especially with the article that was done about the safety concerns and the access concerns over on that side of the road. So I think it's good timing for us, and the fact that we're doing it jointly will bode well for the city. The other item, I guess, that I just wanted to make a request on, we do sometimes have items like this that come up, and I would like to have the opportunity at the meeting to just give a brief update if it's necessary, and if it's okay with the council and the mayor. We would look at just scheduling a city administrator update maybe right before the citizens input or afterwards. So if something like this comes up, we can give a brief update to the full council where the public can hear as well. So if that's okay with you, I will proceed, and then I won't have to take up your citizen input time.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
I think that's a good idea, Ken.
Yes, I do. Anyone else have anything to bring before the council? Now we shall move on. Committee report, Traffic Committee. Entertain a motion? Go ahead with the report, excuse me.
Traffic Commission met tonight at 5:50 p.m. One item on the agenda was a request for temporary handicap parking on the south side of the Corn Palace, which was approved, and the Traffic Commission adjourned at 5:54 p.m. That's all that we had.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion? Motion and second to approve the Traffic Committee report. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion of the City Council to adjourn and sit as the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to sit as the Board of Adjustment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Set the date, entertain a motion to set the date of January 5th, 2015 for the Board of Adjustment hearings as listed.
Second.
Motion second to set the date of January 5th, 2015. Any discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public hearing and action, hearing on the application of Kathy and Jim Metz for a conditional use permit to construct a two-family dwelling located at 219 East 7th Avenue, legally described as Lot 2, Block 7, Rowley's First Edition, City of Mitchell.
If I could direct your attention to the Planning Commission minutes in the back of your packet, you would see that the Planning Commission held a hearing on this request and have recommended approval of this conditional use permit. You may recall a few council meetings ago that you approved a moving permit for a house over here on this 7th over here. And now that the applicant has secured the home and was ready to place it, they would like to make it into a two-family dwelling with basically one would be in the basement. So before they proceed any further, they need to go through the process. So as you would see, that there was very little objection to that at the Planning Commission meeting.
Move to.
Motion second to approve the application for the conditional use permit. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Hearing on the application of James and Lori Bettis for a front yard variance of 13 feet versus 25 feet as required for construction of a covered porch located at 712 South Minnesota Street, legally described as Lot 13, Block 10, Van Epp, Second Edition, City of Mitchell.
Again, if I direct your attention to the unapproved Planning Commission minutes, you would see that they held a hearing on this request and have recommended approval of this variance as well.
Move to approve.
Motion second to approve the application for the variance. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and the City Council to reconvene in regular session.
So moved.
Motion and a second to reconvene in regular session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and action on the Corn Palace sign.
At the last meeting, on your desk is a smaller 8.5 foot by 11 of what the sign layout that we looked at and talked about at the last meeting, which just had Mitchell Corn Palace. Since then, there has been some discussion from the Corn Palace Committee on the building project on the other sign, which is on the 11 by 17 that says World's Only Corn Palace. And at this time, I would like Katie Knudsen from the committee to come up and explain the committee's thoughts on what they're thinking of the sign would look like.
Hello, Katie Knudsen, Director of the Convention Visitors Bureau. I facilitate the Corn Palace Area Development Committee, and I'm on behalf of them. They did decide kind of against Mitchell Corn Palace, as we are going into these renovations and it's becoming the next generation's Corn Palace. They did decide to kind of go with the World's Only Corn Palace, and that stays consistent with our marketing efforts that we do to kind of make sure that it's unique and it intrigues our visitors to come. So they would like to request an approval of the World's Only Corn Palace, which Mitchell, South Dakota, towards the bottom there. As people already know, they're in Mitchell. Sorry.
And the committee voted on this, what, 8-0, or what did they vote on?
Actually, I think I heard back from 8. Actually, it was 8 of the 12 or 13 that we have. So, and some of them actually did. Yeah, and some of them did not even vote.
So when Eric was here the last time, obviously he kind of pointed us in that direction, that is historically, that's the signs that we've had
Correct.
in the past. And
Correct.
But what you're saying, Katie, is kind of our marketing campaign. It fits better.
Right. So the CVB, Convention Visitors Bureau, does the marketing for the Corn Palace. All the billboards that you see comes through our office. Dale Odegaard actually puts this book out in his gift shop, and yes, you are correct. Historically, it is the Mitchell Corn Palace, but I think it was in 1923. It said World's Only Corn Palace. So the committee just, I guess, seems fit to stay consistent with our message that we do have on our brochures, our postcards that we send out, and all the T-shirts, so that when they do get here, they can take a picture in front of the World's Only Corn Palace.
Katie,
So.
do we know if there's another Corn Palace in the world?
No?
I heard there was one in Jersey that was just a little
Oh.
kitty.
There's only one that made the size of the U-Haul trucks, I know that.
I think that was part of our discussion last time, wasn't it? The term world, what happens if we're not the only one?
To my knowledge, I have never heard of another one.
I heard of one in China, but who cares?
If you're listening.
Chances of being named the next Secretary of State just went down.
Well, no, I remember going to my high school reunion when we had just first moved here, and I said I moved to Mitchell, South Dakota, and my debate partner, coincidentally, her mother said, "The world's only corn palace," and that has resounded in my ears ever since. I mean, in Twin Falls, Idaho. So, in Twin Falls, Idaho, and everywhere else that people I know, they refer to it as the world's only corn palace. This is what I think should 100% happen. I agree with you.
So do I. I think that if you're going to take a picture of it, you'd want it to say Mitchell, South Dakota, and it makes sense. That's the only thing that in the front of the building that's going to say it. So.
Yep, I agree.
I definitely think it should have Mitchell, South Dakota on there, and so does the committee, so, yeah.
Well, I don't think it makes any difference one way or the other to the marketing, but, you know, these people have been working on it for 2 years. If this is what they want, this is what they want. I'm going to move that we adopt the world's only corn palace sign here.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the sign with world's only corn palace. Any further discussion?
I at least have to make a comment, and I think this saying world's only corn palace is the way to go, but it really makes me question what's being talked about and brought to the city council if at the last one we have this whole proposal from the architect that doesn't say any of this, and then it goes back again. And I'm thinking Eric's been up here and I think he's a nice guy and everything else, but it really makes me wonder what is being actually discussed. If it gets all the way to the council and we confirm a completely different one and 2 weeks later it comes back again. I intend to vote for this because I like this, but I'm going with what the committee's telling me, and I'm hoping they don't come back 2 months from now and say, oh, well, you know, the design that we gave you wasn't really exactly what we wanted, but we still want the words to be the same. Bring us what is the real deal and not what somebody's feeding you. So that's my point.
Shane Crow, Public Works Director. I believe on my first day, we had a meeting, a Corn Palace meeting, and it was brought up, I believe, by Jerry and Katie about getting a rendering for that says "World's Only Corn Palace" with Sturgis with Mitchell.
See, there
you know where I was. Mitchell, South Dakota, and it was requested for the rendering, and for some reason we didn't get the rendering. And then this last time Eric was here, I was expecting that rendering. I made the request, and that's when we got it, and I forwarded it to Katie so she'd get to the committee. So that's what happened.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the sign that would state "World's Only Corn Palace." All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action on auto supplements, and we also have an addendum on that you have received to add one more item to the automatic supplements, and you have that on your desk. So I would entertain a motion.
Are you, Mr. Mayor, are you looking to take them all at one time?
Unless you would like them individually?
I would move that we approve all four to include the addendum.
We have a motion and a second to approve the auto supplements, including the one listed on the addendum. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Action on Resolution 3239, a resolution providing for a salary schedule for the officers and full-time employees of the City of Mitchell.
You know, I should know this, but I don't. We had some discussion internally about how we were not really competitive on the top end with other cities. Does this reflect a change to be more competitive, or are we staying with the same?
We did some research regarding primarily the department heads, and that survey that we took indicated that for the most part that the department heads were in line with most of the other major cities, with the exception of the Public Works Director. And you will note on the schedule that you received that the beginning and ending range of the Public Works Director has been adjusted to reflect that. The starting salary for the Public Works Director will be $80,000, and the top of the range will be $105,000. As I alluded to you at the time that we were advertising for the position, that we did not receive a overwhelming response for applicants, and in doing some further checking as to what the reasons might be, we started comparing the salaries and getting some input from other cities, and that reality was quite evident at that time. So that change has been recommended. But as I said, the other department heads seem to be reasonably in line with the other Class A cities.
I don't have any problem with this, but like with our fees, sometime I would like to have some sort of written rationale, so when a member of the public comes up and says, why does so-and-so get such and such, you can say, well, you know, they need a master's degree and whatever, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So, you know, this is more or less in line with what we've been doing, but it would, and again, I'm not asking for it tonight, but it would be nice going forward if we had some sort of, you know, maybe publish job descriptions, or, you know, something that we could direct the public to when they say, gosh, you know, why does pick an office? You know, why does the city planner only get a maximum of just under 60,000 while somebody else gets over 100,000?
Does a comparison with other cities, is that valuable or not necessarily?
Well, I think what I think we need is, I think we need some place where you can send people, and would maybe have two things. It would have, you know, we're expecting, you know, a master's degree in public policy for the city administrator, or whatever we expect. And then if you were a city administrator in Watertown, this is what you would get. You know, I get this as a teacher. My God, you're making way too much money. And then, you know, you say, well, you know, this is what I've got, and I've been at it this long. And then they say, well, maybe we're not paying you enough. So I think with the city, you know, when this stuff gets published, people come up and go, God, what a great gig that is. And if you can say, well, you've got to be at it this many years and have this much education, and to get anybody, we got to pay this much. I think we just need to have it somewhere.
And I agree, and the other part of that is maybe it would help as we think about future councils and succession planning. Of somebody leaves employment, we got to hire somebody else. Okay, what are the requirements? What's the range? All that type of stuff. That there's some place for people to go and see that.
Stephanie's waiting to say something.
There was some discussion during the budget hearings about whether the city would want to undergo a comprehensive job analysis and wage comparison study. I think at that point, you would be getting some of that information. It's going to talk about what are the KSAs or the knowledge, skills, and abilities required for each of those positions, and then what the market conditions and comparisons would be for each of those positions, as well as your internal equity or your internal market, you know, how it compares to other positions within the city. I'll state again what I stated during the budget hearings is the only thing that I would caution you is if you get into the process of doing that, you have to be willing to implement what the results are, because it doesn't do any good to go through the cost and the expense and the research and then to have this thing that we paid for that we're not willing to do with the results. But I think what you're speaking to, Mel, usually when you do that kind of comprehensive study, those are the results you get out of there. And we did, like the mayor said, look at those department heads, but by no means has all of the positions been set for a number of years.
Is Billy out here? Yes. We've got a pretty in-depth list of job descriptions, don't we, when an individual position comes open?
Yes, Billy Kelly, Human Resource Director. Every job does have a job description, a full job description. Since I've been here in the last 3 years, we review the job descriptions whenever an opening comes up. We review it with the department head. If it's a department head, we review that with the mayor and other department heads. We just made something up for Stephanie, but no, I'm kidding. But we do. We base those on other cities and things like that. And you're welcome to look at any of the job descriptions anytime. Frankly, it's a major thing. Some of them have not been updated for a long time, and we're working on that. But what Stephanie is suggesting would certainly be helpful in that process. So, any other questions? Thank you.
I'll move to approve Resolution 3239.
Second.
Have a motion and second to approve Resolution 3239. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action on Resolution 3240, a resolution to raise sewer rates in 2015.
Can we pass these out? Thank you. Okay, this would be to raise the rate $1.05, which was what you gave me a go-ahead at the last couple meetings ago, I guess. This would raise an additional $703,413 approximately based on usage per year. We did do some check-in based on Steve Rice's question about maybe we should look at doing just a set rate. The only town that we came up with was Watertown does a flat $21.50 rate on sewer. The other town, there's another town in here that does, which is Vermillion, a monthly bill of 128% of January, February, March usage. That's what Vermillion does. I think doing a set rate, the issue that I have with that is you have, if someone is going to keep their water running all the time, you have no way to control or recount for all the water that you're going to be treating. So I guess any questions on the sewer rate?
This bill doesn't address the $20 million ductile pipe.
Right.
Issue, right?
This is correct. I mean, this would be a great help. We need to do something because we haven't raised rates in the amount to where we're going to be able to start replacing infrastructure. We're going to have to go to general. If we don't do anything, we're going to have to go to general fund and ask money to help us out in fixing that force main, no matter what. And even if by doing this, we're not going to be able to use that money until the following year, until it builds up that fund. And if we could hold on for a year with that force main, then great. If not, we're going to have to ask the general fund for some money to help us with that project. And what I would look at doing is try to do that immediate area that we're having all the main breaks. Now, what might happen, we go in and fix that area, and then those older pipe sections that go all the way to the plant are starting to weaken because we just moved from one strengthened area to the next area. We should have been doing this years ago, but we're here. We need to look at replacing some of those areas. The other thing I would definitely look at, either after the first year or at the next budget time, is I would look at how we take money from those enterprise funds into the general fund, and it's used for basically billing, accounting, things like that. My recommendation would be is set up line items in the water and wastewater funds that would be used for billing, for those kind of things. That way you have a set amount and money isn't rolled over. Like next year, we got $600,000 moving over to the general fund to use for basically the accounting, billing, stuff like that. I think it's a little much, and by doing that, it would give us more money to go towards to fix some of those infrastructures. What we're doing right now is we have a 5-year plan, but the 5-year plan is a wish list. We don't have that amount of money in our enterprise fund to do the amount of work we need to do. And when we're doing street maintenance overlay projects, we have to hold off on some of the streets we want to work on just because we don't have the money in the enterprise fund. We're able to just get by with operating. We don't have the extra money. We got a little extra money to rebuild some infrastructure, but we don't have much. Most towns do take money from their general fund and they use for the accounting, things like that. The one town that did change it, that I talked to a couple weeks ago, was Aberdeen. When they looked at raising rates, that was a big question, was the amount of money that the general fund is taking from those revenues funds. So they made the decision at that time, when they raised rates, no more taking money out of those funds to go towards general fund. So just some ideas.
Well, I can tell you that is one of the concerns that was expressed to me was, so you're going to raise our rates, how do we know that you're going to use that money? And then they brought up a lot of other stuff, but how do we know that you're going to use that money? And I actually said, well, it's an enterprise fund, it's dedicated. Oh, sorry.
So you got to say everything over again.
I don't need to read everything that I just said. But there is that concern. And the other thing that I'd like you to clarify, Terry, is that the impact that this will have per household. The $6 number got translated. This was an older group of ladies that I encountered, and they thought that they were going to be charged $6 per unit extra. And I said, no, this is really my impression. My understanding is that it will be on an average household an impact of $6 per month.
Correct.
And so I wanted to make sure that we verified that for anyone that's listening or that has that concern.
Yeah.
And that this money will be dedicated to make those essential repairs that we have.
Correct.
That's $6, that's just for sewer, right?
That's just for sewer.
Per month.
Yep.
Well, my only point, I feel like I've said this like 6 times in the last 3 meetings, but keep in mind that $600,000 between those 2 funds that's going back to the general fund is not only just paying for billing, it's also for your staff that are working there, their wages and benefits of staff. But bottom line is, if you're going to take away $600,000 of revenue, you're going to have to find somewhere in the general fund to make up $600,000 of revenue. So Terry's solution isn't this real easy, oh, we'll just add additional money to the water and sewer by reducing that transfer, because now you're just shifting the problem to a different fund. So I don't think you can look at it segmented like that. You have to look at the problem in its entirety.
And Stephanie and I sent you an email after the last meeting that I would like, and it's going to have to be next year, hopefully, if we can get it. I would like to see the water department, water and distribution, outline budget-wise like a business. I want to know what their monthly salaries are, what their monthly benefits are, etc. so I know exactly what their monthly costs are, and then what the income is for that month, and are we covering the cost of running a water department or not covering the cost of running a water department? And if we are, great. If it was truly an enterprise fund and we're running it as a business, it would have a profit margin. And if we're not generating enough to cover infrastructure, and the big part of that is I want to know the depreciation schedule for every pipe that we have in the ground and every pickup that we have and every piece of equipment that we have. And the monthly cost should be depreciated out every month if it's a 3-year life on a pickup and 20-year life on a piece of pipe or whatever, so that we know what that cost is per month that we need to generate in order to fix the infrastructure. Now, my thought, and from looking at some of the numbers, is that, yeah, we're not generating enough money. But we need to look at it as this is a water, well, we have a water treatment, which we don't treat water anymore, so that's costing us X amount that we're carrying. We have water distribution, but every time we buy a pump, if the pump's got a 10-year life, the cost and depreciation should go into every monthly calculation that we need to cover the cost of depreciation of that pump, because in 10 years we should be replacing it. And if we can go beyond 10 years, that's bonus to us. But you can't go a 10-year life on a pump and try and run it 30 years. But that's a decision we need to make as a group. But we're throwing money in it and we're saying, here's our rates, and we don't know how much it's costing us.
And Steve, as far as the enterprise fund, that's what you're supposed to do in an enterprise fund, is you're supposed to ensure that the revenues that you're coming in are fully meeting those expenditures that are required by that fund, including planning for future depreciation and replacement. And I don't think we've looked at it in that way. I think that we need to look at that. But my only point was to say that just saying, let's just stop transferring money from the general fund is not a fix, because then you're just shifting the problem to a different fund. You have to.
We don't know how much money not to transfer because we don't know what how much we need to cover. I mean, and I'm sure historically those transfers were based on probably some knowledge and fact of what it's taken and what we're normally replacing. But normally replacing isn't, you shouldn't end up with 50-year-old pipes that only have a 30-year life. And I guess I'd like to see, as we go into, and maybe it's an item for the January 15th, to at least talk about that we need to look at all of our enterprise funds that way.
Corn Palace, all of them.
This change wasn't at $6 per month, it's $4.20.
And the what?
Because an average resident uses about 4 units of sewer a month, so take that times $1.05 and it's $4.20. That $6 was based off of a higher request of a rate increase.
I was thinking of we had a $9 request and a $6.
That could have been. Yeah.
So Terry, just to recap right now, and I see Shane's coming up too to make a comment, but what we're trying to accomplish with the $1.05 is we can do the most integral part of the problem that we have right now and get that taken care of within a year. Is that?
Well, it'd be a little bit after a year because we won't be able to generate this much more money until after a year.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's going to be a 16 project.
Yeah.
And we're going to hold our breath until.
Hold our breath, and hopefully we could hold on until that following year. And once we do that first phase, then we'll move into phase 2 and reroute around Dakota Fest.
Right.
But we need to build more. If we don't do it, then we're going to be asking general fund for a little over $1 million.
Right. And that's the comments I've been getting from the public too, is making sure that if we end up raising rates, we want to make for sure it's going toward a project and being to improve what we currently have in place and make for sure that that's accomplished. And regardless if we take it out of money general fund or coming back, I think the most important, as Steve and Stephanie are pointing out, is we need to understand really the true expense and income that is being generated. And once we've got that, then it's gonna give us our answer. But we know right now that we've got some major projects, and I don't see any reason how we cannot raise at this point, just to make for sure that we're covering probably it's going to be a crisis if we don't start addressing it.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that the rate that the $1.05 rate at the last council meeting, it wasn't mentioned that there's also going to be costs when we have to upgrade our system, when we have to expand our system. As the city grows, we're going to have to, take pipes out to the new neighborhoods. So that's going to be additional cost, and it really wasn't discussed last time. So I want to add that's also going to be part of the, the cost that we'll be facing. And I believe the $1.05 was a 31 year to generate that amount. So I just want to add that.
Like the old penny, Ed Potzler. A sewer increase isn't going to destroy a lot of people in the city of Mitchell, but property taxes and sales tax, to me, should pay for some of the infrastructure that we're looking at. When I look up in Merriam-Webster's dictionary on municipal bonds, it says to extend or install the infrastructure of a community. And that's pretty much what I thought they were initially meant for. There's $2.8 million of municipal funding sitting on the table, costing the city $80,000 a year in interest. And if that were put toward the infrastructure, toward the sewer system that we have now, we wouldn't be hoping for another year's life out of the sewer. We wouldn't be hoping for future funds to pay for stuff that should have already been done, from what I've heard in other meetings. So I would like the council to consider spending some of the money that has already been bonded to the city and is being unused toward the sewer project. Whether that reduces the $1.05 rate or not is really immaterial, but at least we would get a infrastructure change made for our bonded money. And if that impacts the pool should stand on its own. As the mayor has said, the funding has not been determined for that yet, but I would like to use bonded money for infrastructure changes. That was a statement I made a couple meetings back, but it's a statement I'll reiterate at this point. Our rates, living in Mitchell, is expensive compared to South Dakota, at least from the information that Councilman Rice gave us. Just adding to that, meeting after meeting, I think is unfair. There are taxes being paid, and I think the property owner and the citizen of Mitchell should get something out of that investment. Thank you for your time.
John Vermillion, the wastewater superintendent. Just want to touch on one thing. Talking with Andy Brule with the state funding, and he takes care of all the, not the bonds, but the grants, exactly. To be eligible, you have to be at $22 per thousand or per 5,000. And he said a city our size has to be at the $38 per 5,000 gallon to get any grants. To be eligible, he says, you're not going to get them, he said, bottom line. So just to give you a range, I think right now we are at $17.67 per 5,000. With $2.95, it'll put us in the eligible range at $24.67 per 5,000.
So John, is there a lot of cities at that $38?
some of your bigger cities are, and there's some of your smaller cities that have higher sewer rates are at that range. I would say it's about 50% of the cities.
Grant qualification criteria has been in effect for maybe 20 years, maybe longer, I don't know, but the various state agencies that administer those grants, you're not charging at a certain level that they deem appropriate and reasonable, then they're not going to help you. In other words, you should be helping yourself up to a certain point above which they will help.
Going back to some of the comments that Ed made, and it does make sense that with the we're going to be verifying the numbers of coming out in the months coming ahead of what Steve has brought up. But I think with the fact that we're putting in a smaller rate increase than what we currently had originally had talked about, I think we all know that we're not on a 31-year project list. We're going to have to come up with a plan, and I don't think just raising rates. I think looking at it as a whole is probably the best solution. So to say that we're going to approve this and just wait 31 years later and let everything evolve is not gonna happen. So with the work with Stephanie and the department heads and Ken and working through, we're going to come up with a plan that makes sense of how we can bring this down to a reasonable amount of time for replacement. So it is going to be a combination. It has to be. Stephanie's shaking her head. You can't hear that at home. But I think it's just that we're not putting it all on the taxpayer's shoulders of paying a monthly fee. We're going to challenge ourselves to come up with better solutions to get this in place, and working with Shane and Terry, we know that it has to bring that 31 years down to somewhere around whatever 12, 15 years, whatever the case may be. But it just has to happen, so we'll get there.
Is there a motion?
I will make that motion to increase the rates to $1.05 per unit.
Second. We have a motion and a second to increase the rates at $1.05 per unit. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Roll call vote, please.
Smith?
Aye.
Sharps? Aye. Allen?
Aye.
Barrington?
Aye.
Dosher? Cronus?
Aye.
Rice?
No.
Olson?
Aye.
6 yes, 2 no.
Motion is carried. Action on Resolution 3241, a resolution to raise water rates in 2015.
Next page, page 59. I got one little typo. After it says, be it resolved, the City of Mitchell, due to consideration of the rate charged for water use and change as follows. I have sewer there, it should be water. And then this proposal is to raise the rate of 30 cents. And a typical homeowner uses about 7 units per month, so this would raise their monthly bill by $2.10. Yeah. So around 6 would be total.
How much will this raise a year, Terry?
200, a little over 200,000. The wastewater fund is the fund that's most critical in need. The water fund is in need, but not as much.
Terry, refresh my memory. Our water meters, are we in year 3 of year 5?
I'm hoping to be in year 5 next year.
Oh, really?
I'm hoping to push the guys to where we get year 5 done next year. We might have some, because the problem, and this could be a good time to talk about this. The problem we're having right now is we can't get in people's houses. We'll knock on a person's door, and even though that they are home, they won't either come to the door or they will answer the door And they say, no, I don't want it done right now. So we're gonna have,
So what is this, you're coming to their house
to change out their meter. That's
Oh.
all it is.
How many times have you been to their homes?
We probably sent notices to most of them about 6, 7 times, and we're not getting calls.
Them are the ones I'd go after then.
So then
The
is
ones
what
that are
we're
doing something.
So then what we did, we went door to door. I just told the guys, I said, if you're not getting calls for appointments, I want you to go door to door, knock on people's houses and see if they're there. That's the answer we're getting. Is they're not coming to the door, or they are saying, no, I don't want it done. So what incentive or what do we do? Do we say we're going to turn your water off?
These renters, Terry, are these renters or not?
Combination. And you got some people that just don't want you in their house, for one.
Well, I think it's going, people believe it's going to increase their rates
Yeah.
dramatically.
Yeah.
It might help them.
And it could help them, it might hurt them, but in all reality, it's a decision we've made. And I guess, Carl, you're going to have to look into legally, because we're going to end up in the end of 100 people that won't let us in the house, and we're
We're gonna have to enforce it somehow.
right.
Now,
My guys have made some ideas. We add,
might get another picture of. There's a possibility of an inspection warrant protocol prior to disconnecting somebody's water. If a water meter is degrading, it's getting loose and water is going through that's not registering is likely what's happening.
Well, I'd make 2 comments. First of all, I was one of the first people to have it done. I haven't noticed any difference in my water bill, one way or the other. But the other comment I would make, neither my mother nor sister live in Mitchell. But if you came to my mother's house or my sister's house, they'd shoot you before they let you in, because they're not sure you're who you say you are. So, I don't know how the guys are dressed, but I mean, depending on who's coming to the door, I don't blame them for letting in just a random stranger saying, I'm here to check your water main. I mean, they've all seen unsolved mysteries, so that may be part of the issue, is the single woman, the elderly widow, the mother with small children, just are not going to let somebody in without an appointment simply because they don't want to be a statistic.
Do we show credentials? What do we have for credentials?
well, I got a guy with a neon coat that says water department, and he's carrying water meters.
Official credentials.
Is there any way to maybe put it on the notice that you'll be charged so much if you don't?
Well, that's what we need to discuss as a city council
Make
is,
the appointment.
So does the fellow who goes to the door, does he leave anything on City of Mitchell letterhead with city numbers?
well, we have handed out notices that have City of Mitchell on them that everybody's received.
I'm talking about when if I'm the guy and I come to the door and I come to Stephanie's house and she's there with her little kids and I say, hi there, I'd like to come in your house. And she says, I don't think so. Is there something with, then if you'd please call for an appointment, is there a city letterhead? Is there a city card where then she can independently call or,
We can have the guys, we could print up business cards for the guys. Then that way they could give them a business card.
We don't want to have the Jim Rockford scenario, but
yeah, I hear you.
But we should have credentials. I don't know what other people are
Yeah, we
using.
should have badges or something
Yeah.
to the effect that they're
City
able to
field.
identify who they are.
Well, we could, everyone has a city ID badge. They could put it on basically a necklace lanyard, and then they could have that, and we could even print them up some business cards that they could give them and say,
Yeah, they have an official with their picture on
Yeah.
it so that they can see that
we
they
could do
are.
that.
I like the, leaving the card contact back instead of.
Just in case if they have an issue.
If you don't answer
Yeah,
your door and they need to sign, they'll put a little sticker on your door saying, hey, contact me if you want your mail.
Yeah, if
You
we
know,
haven't-
so somebody will
And
call
I-
and
and I
get
do
it, so.
think that
do
We'll
that.
look into it.
And I do think that it
Something
would
for someone
be
to do.
worthwhile to say, this needs to be done within 90 days or whatever, give them a reasonable amount of time, after which your bill will be,
Yeah.
charged.
I don't think you want to give them okay, say if you make an appointment, we'll give you $20. because it's not being fair to the people that made the
Right,
appointment.
no.
We'll work it over, but.
I would say, you know,
No,
there
but
would
there's
be
a
some
time when you
kind
start
of
charging their additional bill, they'll call.
Yeah.
Well, I only got an
That is-
$10 for this month.
My expectation is
Let
that'd
us
be
your door.
correct. Things have changed since I was a little kid. Guy'd walk in the door and he'd say, meter reader. You knew who he was. He just walked in and went downstairs, read the meter, and walked on his way. Nobody knew the difference.
So we'll visit with the water department.
Things have
about
changed a lot, obviously.
Wearing those ID
We
badges.
understand that. But,
And
Councilman
we'll get them some
Jackson,
cards.
might be effective as anything, but we'll see what we can do.
Well, what will have to happen too, if we're actually gonna put a timetable on this, like 90 days, we're gonna have to track that, because
Yeah.
then we'll have to send a.
And we'll be able to,
letter.
yeah.
So there's gonna be a little added, but in order to get this accomplished, these are the ones you're gonna run into, Terry, they're gonna be a little more difficult.
Yeah.
And Mel's got a very valid point on security in this day and age. You're not supposed to talk to anybody you do not know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of ingrained in people's minds these days.
Yeah.
So I think those steps can probably help, and then have a number to call City Hall to set up a time, then that you could come back.
And that's what the notice says. This is a notice from the city of Mitchell to please call for a water meter replacement program that we're underway. This is a mandatory request, and then we list 3 numbers on there.
Okay.
A couple cell phones of our guys, and then the main number.
And I would just add to what Mel said, we've had ours replaced, and I have seen no change whatsoever. So if it's fear of rising water bill or rising sewer costs, they don't need to be afraid of that, because personally we didn't experience. In fact, I feel like maybe it went down a little bit. So I think that we need to let the public know and put their minds at ease about that.
And I think that, well, go ahead, Ray.
But I think we need to put a teeth in the letter, and like I said before, that Carl will look up and see if there's an additional fee every month they don't comply with what we were asking.
And there are benefits. I think that maybe we should relay to the fact that if you've got an inadvertent type leakage that's going on, it can be detected. If you're away from home and something breaks in your home, we can contact you because there is some emergency that's happening, and I know people firsthand that that's happened to them.
Terry, do they show up in City of Mitchell trucks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know one too.
Is there a motion?
I'm going to move to approve Resolution 3241.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 3241. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carried. Action on Resolution 3242, a resolution to consider ratification of police and fire union contracts for 2015.
Hello, Billy Kelly, Human Resource Director, and the 2 contracts we're asking for ratification tonight are pretty clear cut. The fire and police both include a 3% increase across the board as made by the council in the salary resolution. In addition, the police, did they get a copy of this yet? I did not have. Okay, there's an addendum. It's the Teamsters contract. We have the memorandum of understanding in your book, and they approved this like an hour after we had to go to print for this book. So basically, the addendum just says that we are adopting this memorandum of understanding, which we actually designed in 2014 and used for 6 months to see if it will work. And the union voted to incorporate that as a permanent part of their contract for communication specialists. The communication specialists now have permanent shifts that they sign up for rather than rotating shifts. Believe it or not, some people like the night shift, and that's what they select.
Billy, the copy that we have on page 61 is last year's.
Actually, it was created in February or so.
Right.
And was implemented then.
So the 6th-month trial has already taken place?
Yes, it has.
Okay. That was my question, because I'm not going to approve something for a 6-month trial that hasn't
Absolutely.
taken place, because I don't know what happens after the trial's done.
Absolutely. And the contract itself will reflect these hours.
Okay.
So, but the addendum simply make reference to them. As far as the International Association of Firefighters, they have a section where the actual granting of vacation leave now matches the description that is in the manual. There were some things that they were doing that weren't actually in the manual. For example, they said you had to have at least 24 hours leave or 24 hours notice before they were granted vacation leave, and the captains were able to grant that in an emergency, and now it just reflects that in the council or in the contract. The paramedic training agreement is exactly like the fire or the police training agreement, except it's $10,000 rather than $15,000 if they are trained by the Mitchell Fire Division and leave before a certain amount of time has been worked with the department. So, if we get your approval tonight, I have copies that the mayor will sign, and we will get these copies to the union representatives, and they will also sign.
Move to approve resolution 3242.
I have a motion second to approve resolution 3242. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public hearing and action, a supplemental appropriation ordinance 2504.
Tell you what, I see all these supplements that we've had in the last few meetings, and I just think we've got to do something better than to have all that. So whether it's a budgeting procedure or something, we just got to do it better.
I agree with you, Randy. I appreciate the explanations, but we are, I feel like, I agree with you. I feel like these things are things that should have been addressed, or in my mind when I'm reading through them, seem like, for example, when we're looking at things that came in higher, maybe we need a better way of estimating what some of these costs are going to be, initially when we're looking at the budget.
And I don't disagree, but when Marilyn was here, when I first got on the council, this was a burr under my saddle. But part of this is the new accounting rules, and so unless you're absolutely perfect, it's got to be done this way for the auditors. So I don't disagree that this is annoying, but I don't know, other than being perfect, what you're going to be able to do. And some of this stuff is just, moving it around.
I'm sure that's what most of it is.
Yeah.
But it's just the idea that if you take a look at the amount of these that we've done in the last 2 or 3 months, it's gotten, since I've been on the council, it's gotten worse. And I always worry about when you get to the end of the year, and if you're looking and say, well, maybe I'll get this done, maybe I need to supplement it so that I can do it instead of having it left over. I just wonder sometimes if just moving money around to kind of put it someplace else just for a little while. I don't know that. I've worked with budgets before, and I used to purchase stuff at the end of the year because I had money left.
Well, just so everybody understands.
Not that I needed it, but
The first item on legal publications, I believe that's what we pay the newspaper for, publishing minutes, et cetera.
Stephanie would like to talk.
Can I just make one
Yes.
comment on that? I can certainly understand what you're saying. There is a tremendous amount of supplements that are done on an annual basis, just looking through those on what have been approved throughout the year. Now, there's obviously some items that are kind of uncontrollable. For example, the information technology position, which was reclassified. It used to be treated as exempt. Now it's hourly, so you have to make some adjustments for that. And like Mel said, you have accounting rules that now state if you're a certain percentage or dollar amount over on each line, they have to be adjusted. But with that being said, I still think the council has the ability to set some direction as to there's been other items that I've seen come in front of the council with supplemental requests that could have potentially been put off till the next budget year. They weren't emergency. They didn't need to be done this year. So you would have the latitude to set that kind of direction at the beginning of the year, that prior to any supplements happening, the council wants to give approval first before that expenditure is done, which means you have more of say in that supplemental process, because ultimately your budget is how you set your program of work for the year. And every time you do an adjustment like this, that program of work is being adjusted as well. And the council should be the driving force of that change and approving that change prior to the expenses coming in. So I think that there's something to be said on both sides. There are some of these things you can't help. You just have to do it because, something changed throughout the year. But I also think the council has the opportunity to be more involved in setting what that standard is going forward in future budget years too.
I think this gets back to the budget process we were talking about. The more, like in the movie, aim small, you miss small. The closer the better planning you do in a budget, the better you are able you are to execute. Things happen. You're going to live with that. But at this point, we don't know what those costs should be.
And what I would like to see is prior to those expenses being done, that the council be involved in that discussion about what those changes are coming forward ahead of time. Because really that's what you do during the budget process. You hear the request, you approve them. The council should be informed and involved on those continued adjustments as they're happening, not after the fact. And then you would probably feel more confident in the supplements when you're seeing them at the table too.
The ones I always find most inexplicable are the debt service. Because you figure, you know what that is. But unless you're, like we've done in previous years, unless you're, paying something off or buying debt back or something. But anyway.
I don't understand that either.
Well, we're not going to do anything about it tonight. I'm going to move to approve 2504.
Second.
We have a change in the format here. Is this the second reading then? Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 25 or place 2504 on second reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to adopt.
Motion second to adopt ordinance 2504. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 And the ordinance is adopted. Public hearing and action, ordinance 2505, an ordinance amending Title 9, Chapter 2, Section 9-2-1 by adopting portions of the 2012 edition of the International Building Code and portions of the 2012 International Residential Code.
Oh, I don't know if John Haig is here or not, but maybe he wants to.
Let me just say, I really appreciated the commentary portions in the book.
Okay, these are the adopting of the codes. I separated the adoption of the code from the amendments, and by virtue of the fact that this ordinance 2505 requires 2 publications, so that is quite brief as you see. That adopts the codes themselves. Then the amendments, which one will be coming up later on the agenda, relate only to the building code. That needs 1 publication. There's probably several $1,000s differential in publication costs by splitting them off, but there will be 1 other code that I've learned of that we also need to adopt, I'm told by John Haig, and that is part of this code set, but that's the existing building code. And in respect to each of those, there will be a set of amendments similar to what it will be on first reading tonight in respect to the building code. And they will have the commentaries with them.
This being the first reading, if anybody's got any questions,
let me know. It's been 10 years since we adopted a new.
No, this is second reading and
Oh,
adoption.
this one's second reading?
Second
Okay.
reading.
The next ones will be coming, you're gonna have those.
That's correct. This is adopting the three codes that I was aware of for our prior conversations. That is the International Building Code, the International Residential Code, and the
International Existing Building Code.
that is not incorporated in this. Let me look at page 75. Hang on a second.
My understanding is item number 21 is your second reading.
26, 36.
Item number 22 is your first reading.
Well, I can tell you in a moment here. Let me find it. Yeah. No, this adopts two codes, two separate individual codes, the building code and the residential building code, which are two separate codes. We have yet to come to the existing building code, which I was not aware of. And I was hoping to get these all simultaneous, but just didn't happen. But this is second reading and adoption. This requires two publications by virtue of the fact that we're incorporating a code published by a recognized code commission, i.e. in this case, the International Building Code Commission. So this requires two publications. The long one requires one publication because it's spelled out in full. We're publishing the whole thing. We're not the building code, for instance, 1,500 pages or something like that. Take us 3 months to publish the whole thing once. So the law allows us to incorporate by reference, but requires two publications. That's why they're split off like that. I hope that probably confuses everybody somewhat, but ordinance number 2505 is here for second reading and adoption.
It's
Okay,
I would move to approve.
Okay, good now.
Second.
Motion and second to place ordinance 2505 on second reading. Any further discussion?
It's the same code series we're on now. It's a new version. There was a small question on, what the changes are. Many of the changes encompass new building materials, allows the contractors to use those in a different way. And most of the code changes are in the same section of the book. It just strikes a few things. I live in about 3 or 4 different chapters of the code, not all the chapters, and the book of changes encompasses all changes of all chapters. So for me to hit the high points, it's all encompassed in about 4 to 5 chapters of the building code. And it was about 03 was the last time we changed.
Okay, we have a motion and second to place on second reading. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to adopt. Second.
Motion second to adopt ordinance 2505. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Now, 2507 is an ordinance amending the building code, not the residential code. That's yet to come. But these are amendments to the building code.
Just out of curiosity.
And that's on for first reading.
Don't know what happened to. Question is, what happened to 2506?
I think she gave me a number for that, and that's the adoption of the existing building code. It will come out of order, but it will flow in order in her records. The adoption of the code, then the following numbers will be the amendments to those respective codes. And here again, the reason the codes themselves are adopted is because they require 2 publications, and the amendments are voluminous. We only need to publish those once.
Move to put it on first reading.
Second.
Motion second to place ordinance 2507 on first reading. All those in favor say aye.
Is it really a first reading, or does it only have to go through once? Because it doesn't say first reading on this.
I don't know why that was not on there. I will get with Cindy and Stephanie to ensure that that kind of information is in the future included, but this is,
Is it-
2507 is for first reading,
First reading.
to give the council that information.
Okay, we have a motion and second to place ordinance 2507 on first reading. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
For whatever it's worth, I think John started with the Sioux Falls version of amendments, and he had 40-some pages, so he reduced it down to 20-some anyway. Whatever value that is.
Action to approve.
We, as you recall, we adopted the International Fire Code that had some priority to it a long time ago, several months ago with Marius and myself. And we took a look at several different cities' amendments to the code. And of course, Sioux Falls kind of being the leader, everybody looks to them, and their pages of amendments numbered about 120. But that was over the international building, the international residential, the international existing, and some of their city ordinance stuff. Well, we took all those and we meshed them down, and the first one was like 40 pages. We knocked that down to about 9 pages. And what the amendments allow us to do is somewhat align us with other cities, like say, for example, on the height of an egress window. The code says it needs to be 44 inches. Well, most of the city, and it's measured from a certain distance. Well, most cities amended it to 48 inches from the bottom of the glass and not the sill. So Spearfish, Rapid City, all those went there, and the majority of that's what we went with. And that's what we were in the prior code also. But we still have to have the amendment there because it's not the same in the adopted code. The thickness of sheetrock in between a person's residence, in between their garage and their home, the book allows it to be half. Well, our amendment is it should be 5/8. It's more of a fire block than half. So that's one of the amendments. It's items like that that are the amendments, and they were in the prior code also. We just kind of took them and carried them over to the new one. We really didn't change any of the amendments. They have to show up on the new portion now.
Action to approve a notice of acceptability of work for Vanderpool Dragline Incorporated, project number 2013-27, the Gabion Riprap Repair.
This is the final acceptability with the city of Mitchell on this project. This is the project by the spillway where we put in the concrete blocks all tied together. Everything is complete. We will take a look in the spring to see how the ice damage and stuff like that did against these new blocks, and he still has his 1-year warranty, so we'll make sure that any of the damage gets fixed as part of that. All of his lien waivers are in. If you guys approve this, then you could go back and approve the one pay estimate, because that would be his final pay estimate for this project. I think the project turned out really nice.
Okay. Then if we're satisfied with it, I would move that we approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the acceptability report. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action to approve the certificate of substantial completion to Menning Backhoe LLC for the Avera Queen of Peace Storm Sewer Project number 2012-2, tabled from the December 1, 2014 City Council meeting.
I want to go through a little bit what, when we do contracts with contractors, what substantial completion means. When a contractor considers the entire work ready for its intended use, contractor shall notify the owner and engineer in writing that the entire work is substantially complete, except for items specifically listed by the contractor as incomplete, and request that the engineer issue a certificate of substantial completion. So that is what
Is that the general conditions of the contract form?
of the contract. Now, we put some pressure on SPN, and I actually called Menning Backhoe to say, hey, council did not approve the last one. We need to get these items fixed. So they went in and actually they did all the items on page 91 and 92, other than a couple. And one item is need to replace asphalt patch by a handicap ramp that was holding water and holding some ice. You can't do that now. The only way to do that is in the spring. The cost of that would be about $2,500 times, say, 200%, which would be 5,000. Okay, the other one was an erosion control blanket. The cost of that is $12,000 times 200%, 24,000. So right now, paid to date, we have paid them $1,080,000. Contract is $1,216,000. They have $30,000 left to do. The next pay estimate is about $40,000, which would mean we would still hold $90,000, of which only $30,000 is really left for them to do until they're finally completed. So I would recommend that we approve this substantial completion because the project is done of what it was originally intended for. It is being used for storm sewer for Avera and for some City of Mitchell drainage. The only thing that's left is some minor details. They were able to get a lot of the work done, and we will still hold $90,000 until everything is finalized and finally done.
Under the circumstances, the notice should be annotated with those exceptions.
I guess, what I would look at, and I don't have any paying for the work they've done, but with the holding of the $90,000, do you feel comfortable that if they don't get it done, we can contract with that money and get it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do.
Move to approve.
Just make sure we have it.
Second.
Motion second to approve the certificate of substantial completion for Manning backhoe. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action to approve the certificate of substantial completion of Sunkota construction for library renovation and addition, city project number 2013-7, tabled from the December 1, 2014 City Council meeting.
Same thing with this one. I would definitely be willing to approve this one. The only thing, oh, wait a second. Are we in the library one?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I misthought here for a minute. The only thing that they have left to do is they got to do some paperwork, so some OEM manuals and some other paperwork to supply to the city for the operation. There is some shelving end caps that need to be done, but I think that was actually part of another project that we approved. And then we're looking at adding a light above the countertop where the City of Mitchell, the city staff asked the countertop be moved back to give more room, but the original lights that were put in there are not in the right spot. So there's some minor little detail items. It's being used in the operation that we're using it right now. We are going to hold $41,000 until everything is final and done. So by even approving this, doesn't mean we're going to pay them some money right now. We're going to hold off and pay them any money until we got those manuals and everything in our hands.
Sure. We want to make sure, again, that we annotate our certificate. Otherwise, it could show back up.
Yeah.
Piece of paper.
The library's in use, and it's being used for the purpose that this project was for, which means I don't have any issue with approving substantial completion.
Yeah, I just wish that they would have put, if they finished some of these items, they would have given us a different checklist. All they did was photocopy the last one, and I just don't think that's proper business.
And we requested it. The only thing I could tell you,
Usually punch list items run over the substantial completion. But
They have dates and completions here on their list.
here's
point is well taken.
Here's a reply from the architect from the contractor. And Larry, we have someone at the library on Monday morning to check off the status of our subcontractor punch list. Clint is planning to be there Tuesday, which is tomorrow. We should get the rest of the signs today. Syverson will be there to set the slate top on the U-shaped desk in the workroom on Tuesday the 16th, which is tomorrow. I would expect there will be some items that still need attention. We will have a definite list by late Tuesday. Can you advise on the status of the change orders for both phases? We would like to get these subs paid. So I think they are pushing also, and they were planning on being here tomorrow. But no matter what, and I'm fine. If you don't want to approve this one, I'm fine, but I think, for what, this is not for final. We're still holding money from them. It's being used, for what it was intended.
I think the architect recommends when substantial completion is done, and it doesn't get final until the punch list is completed.
Right.
Is how these contracts work.
So you're holding 41,000 back, and how much work do they have left?
They just got paperwork and setting some tile on a countertop.
But I would still annotate, if you're going to approve it, I'd still annotate them.
That's why I said I don't.
And the lights, that's an additional because of us moving that countertop.
It reduces
Those
our,
are lights on the soffit on the back side of the building that the lighting isn't adequate to illuminate the.
it reduces our withholding.
Table until next meeting.
I guess I don't have a problem proving it. The punch list is known, but most of the punch list isn't done.
Yeah. The effect of it, for whatever it's worth, just so I think I have this right, is that we're holding 10% of an entire contract now, and we release down to what our 5% of an entire contract. At substantial completion, that reduces down to what's left on punch list items.
I know the city does things differently.
So that's the
I don't
how
pay
it.
it till it's done.
I'm not saying do or not do, but that's what.
Right now, we've paid them $1,778,000, and we have left basically $41,000 to pay them.
Terry, Larry was up here 2 weeks ago and said in the next 2 weeks he'd have it done. Is any of it, have they even started?
No.
Move to table.
Motion second to table the certificate of completion for Suncota. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
No.
Before we go on, can I simply move that we pay the estimate to Vanderpool Dragline?
We pulled that out of the consent. The Vanderpool.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was when he was here.
Do you have a motion?
Yeah, I would just like to move that we do pay the estimate to Vanderpool Dragline of $19,881.56 that we pulled off consent since we've dealt with the.
Second.
Motion and a second to pay Vanderpool Dragline for the work done on the spillway. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action to remove table item from December 1st, 2014, a certificate of contractor and indemnity agreement to Manning Backhoe LLC for the Vera Queen of Peace Storm Sewer City Project number 2012-2, tabled from the December 1, 2014 City Council meeting.
When we met with this before, and I don't even know if this should have been on there, because this is my first time I've gone through these finalizations since since Tim has left, but SPN didn't think that this even needed to be on the agenda because there's no place for the city to sign or the city to approve it for, so that was the reason why I'm requesting that we just remove it from the tabled agenda items.
This is something that city submitted as a condition of the inception of the contract.
Motion to remove. Motion second to remove the item. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to go into executive session.
Motion and second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved.